Welcome back to the channel, guys. How are you doing? We are breaking down Child USA coming out in support of Blake Lively. Today was supposed to be my day off streaming. I was like, today is going to be a quiet day. I'm going to work on client work in my jammies in bed. I'm going to take it easy. And then I wake up and I check the docket. I'm like, what happened last night? What happened? There's like 7 new filings, and this one really caught my attention. So, welcome to the chat, guys. Hey, Leo. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see you guys. As Leo says, like the stream, hang out with us, hang out in the chat. For those that are new, my background's in branding and marketing. I forgot my little graphic there, branding and marketing. But today we're looking at the legal documents. I am not a lawyer. I do not play one on TV. What we do here is I like to see these types of live streams as us all hanging out with like a coffee and talking about the craziness of it all. So I do give commentary as I go. If that highly offends you, then this is likely not the video for you. I'm sure someone else will also read these documents at some point today. And yeah, I'm in my PJs, as close as I can be, but we are streaming. So I went against that promise to sell. Okay. I want to look at this first before we dive in too much, because what I find so interesting about Child USA is they're fighting for children's rights. They pave the way for justice and prevention. And they came out, don't worry, I'll get the documents up. They came out in support of Blake Lively's motion to dismiss, essentially saying that we have to protect victims of SA and SH because if they get hit with defamation lawsuits, they're going to be afraid to come out. So we need to protect these laws. Okay, but the problem that I'm seeing with this, because they even add in, I've only read the first 2 pages. We're going to explore it all together, but they even add that, we have to assume it's good faith. The law isn't protecting people that are lying. The law protects people that make good faith SASH accusations. And what I was thinking when I was reading that was, well, if you're not allowed to defend yourself against these allegations, how do you ever prove that it wasn't good faith? Let me know if you guys have those same thoughts. So in theory, to me, the law makes sense. Make it so that victims can come forward, maybe feel more comfortable. But how do you ever have false allegations dealt with if you're not allowed to actually challenge them? It's like the biggest trust me bro law from what I understand. Again, not a lawyer, but so anyway, let's look at Child USA quick, because this is who came out to support Blake. But we're also going to look at, before we get into the legal documents, the fact that the last organization that came out to support Blake, I don't know if you guys noticed this, Ezra Hudson, Blake's lawyer, is on the board. So when I say, what is your connection to Child USA, is because what we've seen so far is that Blake actually does have connections to these organizations that are coming out in support of her. Now, I did do the deep research dive on ChatGPT, like the feature that you can pay extra for, and I can't find anything in regards to connections to Child USA that are known. Does it mean that she has, there's maybe money put in their bank account? I don't know. But they are fighting for children's rights. It is a nonprofit think tank for children devoted to ending child abuse and neglect, and it leads the way for statute of limitations reform in the United States and around the globe. Child USA engages in high-level legal and social science research and analysis to derive the best public policies to guide the formation of the best laws and policies for child protection. Child USA produces evidence-based solutions and information needed by policymakers, organizations, media, and society to increase child protection and the common good. So again, there's not anything I can really find directly. Their values, courage, purpose, integrity. I don't know if I'd be backing Blake Lively if one of your values is integrity or justice or teamwork or empathy or courage or purpose or any of it really. But, all right, sure. I've went through everything. There are some ties to actors in Hollywood. We have not current actors. I don't believe he acts anymore. Corey Feldman is one of the ambassadors for Child USA. He's been very outspoken. And so, okay, are you guys old enough? This is going to age me. Who here has seen The Goonies, Gremlins, one of my favorite movies, Lost Boys? Are you guys old enough to have seen any of those? Because if you are old enough to see any of those, then you likely know who Corey Feldman is. But he has been a really outspoken whistleblower for abuse of children in Hollywood. I mean, you can find an article, even The Guardian, going back 5 years ago. So it's not like he's just come out of the woodwork, but it just seems weird to me how this organization is backing Blake Lively. Me, Gen X rocks. Yeah. I'm so glad I've heard of them. Oh my goodness. You've just heard of them, but I'm feeling so old right now. Feeling so old. I love it. I am so good. If you guys haven't seen it, those are classics, especially Gremlins. I mean, it's not like CGI from this age, but I prefer those kinds of movies. I don't know. They're cute. Okay, so that's who Corey Feldman is. I've never heard of this organization, but I want to, because again, before we get to the legal document, this is what makes me kind of go, like, what's your connection to Blake? I want to know what your connection is, because let me make sure I pull up the right. Is this it? Yeah. So this one was filed May 27th. And this one was filed by Equal Rights and Advocates, California Employment Lawyers Association, and California Women's Law Center in support of defendants Blake Lively's motion to dismiss based on California Assembly Bill 933. Let me know, did you guys know that Ezra Hudson is connected to this organization? Our generation does have all the good movies. It's true. The good music. Seriously, it does. I might be biased because I'm older, but we had the best movies and music. Okay, so when we're looking at this one, May 27th, California Women's Law Center. This is the one you might recognize as soon as I read how it starts out, because it just feels like Blake Lively wrote this, but it also is for the press, which makes me laugh because Blake Lively's all out here every time Justin says anything or Brian Freeman says anything. She's all out here like, they're just doing this for the press. They're just doing this for PR. This is how it started. Like, once upon a time in Hollywood. No, it didn't start like that. It said one of Time Magazine's top 100 influential people of 2025. Blake Lively is anything but the average person. But her experience, and I want you to imagine like pictures of her with her kids in the background, right? Like, this is like a movie setup. Her with her kids and baking. But her experience of being sued for defamation after speaking out about sexual harassment is all too common. Hundreds of retaliatory defamation suits have been filed against SH and SA victims for publicly disclosing their abuse in recent years. So what? Not so what? Sorry, that came out wrong. Not so what if people are afraid to come forward. So what in the sense of, that was a bad pause. This is the epitome of, but you have to trust someone if they come out and say they were SH'd. And this is my biggest problem with this. People aren't allowed to defend themselves against false allegations. You just have to be like, oh, well, sorry, because there's so many situations where there's retaliation and the person really was SH, you just got to take it. Sorry. Just let your life be destroyed. Just roll over. So it says this hotline has heard from dozens of low and middle income workers, students, and others who were threatened with or forced to defend themselves against such suits in retaliation for speaking about abuse they experienced, or were chilled from speaking out at all for fear that they would become targets of such retaliatory litigation tactics by their abusers. I mean, it does happen. But again, I just really struggle with how they are using those situations to justify Justin can't fight for himself. Because I'd still like for any of these people to know, or to let me know, what is the actual proof? Because every time Blake says this happened, Justin's team comes out with something that says, no, actually, it didn't go down like that. And then she cries to the press saying it's the abuser's playbook. That is literally, if you've caught onto the loop, that is the loop we are in. So to combat the onslaught, and so just for anyone hopping on, this is the one from May 27th. And I want to tie the connection to a previous organization that supported Blake to her lawyers. We won't read the whole thing. It's just a couple lines I want to read. So to combat this onslaught of retaliatory defamation suits in 2023, ERA joined this California Employment Lawyers Association to draft and champion the passage of Assembly Bill 933. This legislation clarified that an individual's communication, regarding an incident of SA, harassment, or discrimination they experienced is privileged, provided it was made without malice. And therein lies the problem, in my view. Like, are they just like, well, we just asked, was this made with malice? And the person's like, well, no, of course not. We're like, okay, cool. It also created a fee-shifting provision and authorized recovery of damages. Well, she's backtracking on her damages, baby. She's like, oh, sorry, no, I wasn't emotionally destroyed by this anymore. JKing. This legislation clarified, oh, we already read that. The intent of AB 933 was to protect survivors from defamation lawsuits filed against them, to deter abusers from filing retaliation defamation lawsuits, and to combat the pervasive silencing of survivors that enables SH and SA to persist at epidemic rates. Now, let's just have a look. Remember, May 27th, and I'm setting the stage with this because I am not making formal allegations that Child USA is connected or got money for this. But when you start to see a pattern, you start to go, that's interesting. Wonder what the connection is here, because there's consistently a pattern. So let's look at it. The California Women's, what was it again? California Women's Law Center. Does this name look familiar to anyone? Ezra Hudson. So she's a partner at Manat, Phelps & Phillips LLP and focuses on employment law and related litigation. She represents companies in state and federal court and claims of discrimination, harassment, wrongful discharge, breach of contract, trade secrets, and unfair competition. She also defends companies against employment-based class action suits and provides management training on a variety of employment-related subjects, including SH and discrimination prevention. She graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and earned her law degree from University of California, Los Angeles School of Law. There you go. California Women's Law Center. That to me just seems weird, right? So let's flip over now to the new documents that were filed yesterday with Child USA. Just make sure I have the right one up. And actually, no, we'll do this first. Just don't let me forget, because this is an organization that's protecting children. Do we remember Kid Pool? Actually, you know what? Let's go there first, because I'll definitely forget. So keep in mind, Child USA's whole point is to protect children. So they're defending Blake Lively because they are protecting children. But clearly, no one at Child USA, or they got written a big enough paycheck that they overlooked this piece, saw this. Because this came out, Ryan Reynolds admits to coaching his daughter 7 to deliver sick and disturbing line in his film Deadpool and Wolverine. Fans have been left horrified by Ryan Reynolds' admission that he made his daughter Inez say a sick and disgusting line in the third Deadpool film amid ongoing Justin Baldoni lawsuits. In the 2024 movie Deadpool and Wolverine, Inez, then 7 years old, had a small role as a foul-mouthed kidpool who utters the line, "When I want your opinion, I'll take Wolverine's blank, redacted, out of your mouth." In a commentary track for Deadpool and Wolverine's Deadpool corpse scene in 2024, Ryan joined director of the movie Sean Levy to share all things behind the scenes and revealed that and this is the thing, not only did they have Inez repeat that line 70 to 500 times, I don't know how it's so broad, like that seems super broad, but Ryan also laughed that he told Inez if she didn't say the line, he would find someone else. This is a guy that replaced his wife in the movie because, I don't know what, she couldn't fit in the lady pool costume. Which, to me, to get upset at Justin Baldoni for asking your weight, which he did it because of his back, but your husband replaced you in his movie, but used your voice still, and then let you do the tours of all the late night shows saying that you are lady pool. Blake, Honey, you're not Lady Pool. You are the voice of Lady Pool at best. Your husband replaced you. So Ryan replaces Blake. So maybe he used that against his daughter. Like, Inez, you know I replaced Mummy. Mummy wasn't good enough for the role. So because Mummy wasn't good enough for the role, if I can replace Mummy in the movie, you know I can replace you. So what are you going to do about it? But he admitted to basically telling her if she didn't do it, she'd be replaced on the set and in the role of Kid Pool. So then she agreed to it. So he manipulated his then 7-year-old daughter to say what he wanted her to say when he could have used AI. He could even use a voiceover. She's in a bloody full-blown mask. Oh, keep reading, Ashley. Reynolds says Inez was originally reluctant, but changed her mind last minute when she suggested that he look for another actor to take the part. The actor joked he should get the Best Father of the Year award as he admitted he coached Inez on the script. So Child USA, and there's the picture of her on the set. So even if you had a voiceover, you would never know. You're not seeing it come out of her voice or her mouth. So I'd like to know, Child USA, if your role is paving the way for justice and prevention, if your whole About You section is fighting for children's rights, what do you think about this? What do you think? Because it looks really bad to me when you have Child USA coming out supporting these crazy people, Blake and Ryan, when this just came out, 2 months ago? Not even? March 24th, that story started running. So anyway, with that said, I think this is wild. We'll flip over to the legal documents. I just like this case. It just keeps giving in the most frustrating way possible. How are you guys feeling about this so far? Every day this trial becomes more and more crazy. Yes. Yeah, I didn't know she's not Lady Pool. She's not. At best, she just gave the voice to Lady Pool. I don't doubt that she was meant to be Lady Pool all along, but she's not. All right, let's dive into this. So they come out, Child USA, in support of defendant Blake Lively's motion to dismiss and urging the court to uphold the constitutionality of California Civil Code 47.1. This is 42 pages. 42 pages. I don't know if we're going to read the whole thing. We'll see. I say that every time and then we do anyway. So, there's that. All right. Let's dive in. There are other documents too. We should have time to go over some other ones that hit the docket yesterday. We'll do our best to get through everything. We'll see how far we get. The interests of Child USA is an interdisciplinary nonprofit think tank. I hate that word, dedicated to preventing child abuse and neglect and ensuring access to justice for survivors. Their mission is to employ in-depth legal analysis and cutting-edge social science research to come up with the best policies needed to increase child protection and the common good. Like, what? There's no way you can convince me anyone at Child USA is actually following this case. Again, I started with the California Women's Group because of Ezra Hudson to show that there's been consistently a pattern of her connected to these organizations that are coming out to support her. I can't find one currently, but there's not to say that she didn't make a donation. Child USA's founder, Professor Marcy A. Hamilton, is a world-renowned constitutional law scholar, First Amendment expert, and professor of practice at the University of Pennsylvania. She sounds very accomplished, likely too busy to keep up on this case. I can barely keep up on this case. Like, I'll have a video come out. It's completely irrelevant 2 hours later because of how fast this case moves. Her leadership has positioned Child USA at the forefront of legal scholarship and advocacy on the intersection of survivor rights and constitutional protection. Child USA is also the leading organization to study and track SA statutes of limitations through its Sean P. McLeod SOL Reform Institute and has spearheaded the national movement to align SOLs with the well-established science of delayed disclosure. The organization has advised Congress, state legislators, governors, courts on the constitutionality of revival window legislature, anti-SLAPP protections, and other laws aimed at increasing survivors' opportunities to access justice. They filed these amicus curiae, I don't know, pronouncing that wrong for sure, briefs in state and federal courts across the country defending the constitutionality of such laws against First Amendment due process and equal protection challenges, including in cases involving retaliatory defamation claims. Child USA has a strong interest in the outcome of this case, which will, if you had a strong interest in the outcome of this case, you'd be up on this case. And you'd be like, I am not going near this with a 10-foot fucking pole. I'm thinking Ryan Reynolds watches Blake Lively's weight. Probably. There's no way you've been following this case enough to make an argument that this case has a direct relationship to you and you have a strong interest because of it. So they say it'll shape the legal landscape for survivors. So here's my issue with this. Blame Blake Lively. Blake Lively is the reason why people are questioning laws like this. If it were me, although I'm sure it looks bad on organizations like this, I'd be taking a stance for truth and justice and being like, he has a right, based on the evidence we've seen, to defend himself. Because every single time she's come out, the text messages, well, it came out that they were altered. An emoji was missing. They had cut and chopped and fit it in a way that fit their narrative, but didn't put the whole truth. And then the whole dance scene. She goes, oh, you know, he was whispering all this stuff in my ear about how good I smelled and nuzzling my neck. Well, you get the audio from it. And she had made a comment about her tan smelling or something like that. He says it smells good. Like, if anything, it comes across as him trying to assure her, like, don't worry, you don't smell like crap. It smells fine. And then she goes off to create her body mist because she wants people to be smelling her on set. Yeah. Make sure you watch that video if you're new to the channel. She actually said that just like a week ago, that she has sense for each of her characters. She did not mention It Ends With Us in her list of what she wanted the characters to smell like. But anyway, each time it's been proven what she said is a load of bullshit or manipulated. Child USA offers this brief to demonstrate that California Civil Code 47.1 is both constitutionally sound. You're using Blake as an example that's constitutionally sound. And essential to protect the rights of survivors of SA, SH, and safeguard the integrity of public discourse, ensure equitable access to justice. I want someone to tell me how Blake protects and safeguards public discourse, because her team right now is undergoing hashtag suppression, keyword suppression, accounts are being shut down, muted. I've had videos being struck for nudity the last couple of days. There is no nudity on my videos, but I'm having videos struck for that and taken down, and I have to like appeal it or edit it to fit apparently non-nudity community standards, which there was never in the first place. My TikTok, literally yesterday, 0 views on 2 reels before I like enlisted X to come help me. So I want to know, because Blake seems to be the one that has a problem with public discourse. This also all started because Blake Lively had a problem with the public not liking her, and she could not believe that the discourse happening in public was organic. If you don't like commentary, this will not be the read through for you, because this is my first time reading it, and you're going to get all the thoughts that happen in my head as we go. So SASH remains a pervasive and chronically underreported crime, particularly in cases involving child SA. What does that have to do with this case, though? Like, I'm not saying that child abuse doesn't happen in homes where there's spousal abuse, but it's not even relevant to this case. Among the most formidable barriers to disclosure and survivors' fear of retaliation, which increasingly takes the form of meritless defamation lawsuits designed to intimidate, silence, and punish those who speak out. These lawsuits drain victims' financial resources and cause them extensive emotional, psychological, and reputational harm. No, Child USA, you're behind. My friends, you should have edited this first. Blake said, JKing, there has been no emotional or psychological harm. I was joking about that. That's what she said. Also, that's what she said is great from The Office, but I mean, that's literally what her words were. Worse still, they chill constitutionally protected speech, deterring survivors from coming forward and obstructing efforts to expose abuse, prevent future harm, and hold perpetrators and institutions accountable. In direct response to the urgent threat, the California legislature enacted Assembly Bill 933, amending Code 47 to provide absolute privilege for good faith. Yeah. Disclosures of essay, harassment, or discrimination, and meaningful remedies to survivors who are forced to defend against retaliatory defamation lawsuits. Are we still on this being like some retaliatory thing? Critically, it targets only baseless claims. So, yeah. But how do you prove? How do you prove that something is true or not if people can't defend themselves? And I think if someone is leveraging a law like this as a shield to say whatever they want and to destroy someone's life, which is literally what that woman that came forward, I can't even think of her name, in support of Blake Lively did. She had an 11-year relationship with someone. Like, it's so wild. An 11-year relationship with someone, breaks it off, or he breaks it off, and then sues him for SH. And then she ended up having to pay him because it turned out that she was trying to destroy his life because the relationship was over. I think those individuals have a right to sue for defamation. You're destroying people's lives. So critically, it targets only baseless claims, those that fall squarely within the sham litigation. They apparently haven't heard about Sham Zan or Van Zan exception nor Pennington immunity, and imposes no liability on legitimate petitioning activity. It simply removes legal recourse for those who abuse the judicial process to suppress survivor speech that rests at the heart of First Amendment protection. Striking down 47.1 would force survivors into an untenable position of having to choose between remaining silent or facing emotional, reputational, and financial devastation through protracted abusive legislation. It would also send a dangerous message to other survivors contemplating disclosure. That's Blake's fault. That speaking out may carry intolerable risks, and it would embolden perpetrators and complicit institutions that depend on secrecy to perpetuate cycles of abuse. Such a result would be oh my God, I'm going to struggle with words today, to California's longstanding commitment to dismantling barriers to justice for survivors, and would frustrate the legislators' efforts to align the law with our modern scientific understanding of trauma. Blake just dropped her trauma arguments. Those are gone. She says she wasn't damaged emotionally. There's no emotional distress. She's dropping 10 and 11. The implications would extend beyond California. States across the country have looked at 47.1 as a model for safeguarding survivor speech, and many have adopted similar laws. These reforms, alongside nationwide efforts to expand SOLs for Child SA, why are they keeping... Anyway, reflect a growing consensus that survivor expression is essential to public safety and access to justice. Declaring 47.1 unconstitutional would not only place California's protection at risk, but it would also threaten to destabilize this broader national movement. As the legislator itself proclaimed, the era of using defamation lawsuits to muzzle survivors must end. Who protects those that are falsely accused? We live in a world where there are false allegations, and people leverage false allegations to destroy someone's life that hurt them or that they just don't like. California Civil Code 47.1 is a necessary and constitutionally sound vehicle to ensure that it does, to further the state's compelling interest in encouraging the reporting of SH, and shielding survivors from further harm. Amicus respectfully urges this court to uphold the statute in its entirety. But she dropped number 10 and 11 under duress. That's probably what she's going to claim. It's likely what she's going to claim. That'll be the twist that she'll do. Evidence to date. Trust me, bro. Yep. Exactly. All right, let's get into the arguments. Retaliatory defamation lawsuits silence survivors, perpetuate myths about false accusations, and exacerbate the public health emergency of SA. An absolute privilege for good faith survivors' disclosures is supported by compelling public policy considerations. It constitutes a widespread and devastating public health crisis that remains chronically underreported. Survivors face numerous well-documented barriers to disclosure, including fear of retaliation, stigma, and systematic disbelief, barriers that perpetrators routinely exploit to ensure silence. The rise of retaliatory defamation lawsuits has only deepened this crisis, allowing perpetrators to weaponize the judicial system to discredit survivor accounts, deter others from coming forward, and conceal misconduct. Such lawsuits inflict ongoing harm, reinforce discredited myths about false accusations, and suppress essential public discourse, undermining both individual access to justice and broader societal imperative of accountability. So, for those that are newer to the channel, you may not know my first career was in the field of psychology, and I had particular interest in children and youth. So I worked at group homes, jails. I ran after school programs with the YMCA for youth and kids in high risk neighborhoods, high risk for ending up in a life of crime or using drugs. Equine assisted therapy programs. I mean, I've been women's shelters, like eyeballs deep in the industry for a long time before I left from getting burned out. And so, yes, I am not saying this stuff doesn't happen, but I've also seen it misused. And I think what the public in general is starting to catch on to is, at the very least, people are starting to question her motives for this. At the very least. So, where I come from on my mindset of this is like, I so deeply want to just initially believe all survivors. And I do, because I've seen it. Like, I have literally been at women's shelters answering the door on midnight shifts with women coming in with their kids in the middle of the night. So I get it. And I've been in courts with teenagers that, you know, their family's trying to manipulate them and twist things, and they're afraid to speak out. My whole stance on all of this is, with a law like this, how there's going to be people that are falsely accused, and how do we also protect those that are falsely accused? And if you say, well, they can't retaliate, or sorry, if you include, again, not a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not even American, I'm Canadian. But to me, how I see this is, if you just say, well, they can't file like a defamation lawsuit or anything because it's retaliation, so they just have to suck it up. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I've come to the conclusion JB has a higher purpose to speak for the falsely acclaimed, and we will see him do many talks on this in the future with balance and respect. I hope he does. Did anyone hear on the Popcorn Planet channel that he had insight from someone in the industry that regardless of what's happening, Blake will still win? This is my opinion before we go any further. I think she's going to take the approach. I'm so torn on this. Part of me is like, is her dropping 10 and 11 her trying to quietly step away from everything? But I also don't think with that type of individual, they ever fully will. I think what she'll do is, even if she loses in court, she's going to take the stance of like blaming content creators and blaming the internet and blaming everyone else, and just go deeper into I'm a victim. That's my own personal opinion. And if she could get Hollywood to support her enough on that, Hollywood might support her enough on that. And I think it's just where the public really has to use our power, and not just our dollars, right? Of where you're spending your dollars in streaming a movie, or quite literally like renting a movie, or going to our movie theaters, even a thing. That was like my first job in a movie theater, but also like being cautious of what you click on, because the reality is, like, click on, I was at Variety yesterday. They did such a great job centering Justin Baldoni and making sure at the top his story was told. So Variety yesterday had 2 articles that came out that were very clearly, so my background, branding, marketing, SEO, I can see it. I look at the words, I see the structure of how these articles are written. It was very obviously pro Justin and supporting truth. So yes, click on those articles that are supporting truth, but let content creators click on the things that are pro Blake. Sorry, I have like a dog hair on my face and it's driving me crazy. Because if you click on an article, they make money through ad revenue. You can just click on the article and do nothing else, and they're making money. Let content creators pull up some of those crazy ass articles that are out in left field, clearly supporting Blake Lively, because they'll get one click versus thousands of clicks. So your clicks as well mean something. So if you can look at from a perspective of not just, well, I'm not streaming her movies, but I'm not engaging with content that platforms are putting out slanted angles on, that's going to help you as well. That's going to help the fight as well. But I think more than anything, what this is showing is in 2025, we have to take back our power. And that's the only reason I'm talking about this on my channel, to be quite honest, is in terms of media manipulation and narrative control, is I'm in the industry. I see it. I know what goes on, and I'm trying to help the public also see between the lines and see the intention behind the headlines. Like, for example, Hollywood Reporter seemed pro-Justin yesterday based on the headline, but if you've watched my videos on media manipulation in the past, you've likely read it and you're like, I don't know. I don't know. It kind of feels like Blake. I don't know. Pro Blake. Which 80% of people only read the headline, so we can, I guess, chalk it up to a win as well. But still, that's why I do this. And that's why I have a problem with this argument, is it's just this basically we have to trust people no matter what. And unfortunately, it doesn't take into account that there are people that will weaponize the law to get what they want or to hurt people. SA is pervasive and vastly underreported. So for those just hopping on, this was filed yesterday by the Child USA to support Blake Lively. I know, it's hard to believe. So next they're saying it is national public health crisis and affects individuals of every age, gender, race, and background. An estimated 81% of women and 43% of men report experiencing some form of SH or assault during their lifetimes. Nearly 1 in 5 women and 1 in 71 men in the US have been SA'd, with even more reporting other forms of coercion and unwanted contact. And they keep bringing I think they're trying to make this an argument that's not. Like, this has nothing to do with children in the sense of this case. Like, this case is a workplace issue that she's claiming happened on the workplace. But I also feel this is inflammatory for the public, because if she leverages this in her PR of, Child USA came to support me because we're all fighting for the rights of women and children, she could leverage that for PR, and Blake-friendly publications could leverage some of these statements of, look, even Child USA, not saying anyone's going around with this, but it's possible. Even Child USA is defending Blake because this isn't just about women, it's also about children. In institutional settings, the threat of SV, sexual violence, is compounded by steep power imbalances. Power imbalances. Does anyone want to talk about that? Because the power imbalance was in Blake's favor on that set. Credible fear of reprisal and systemic indifference that collectively suppress survivor disclosures. Indeed, more than 4.5 million K-12 students. Oh, we're still on kids. Roughly 10% of all school-age children are subject to misconduct by a school employee. See, and this is, I don't like this, guys. Let me know in the comments. Does this seem like purposefully inflammatory? To me, it just feels purposefully inflammatory because the media can get a hold of this. And I don't know. I'm not a fan of this take. This isn't about the kids. Like, I guess what their argument is if you impact the law around it, you're also negatively impacting the kids. But this is workplace issues. I have a feeling with PR stunt and clickbait, this will lead to child predators linked to Baldoni. That's what I'm a little bit worried about. I'm glad I'm not the only one. It's another form of defamation to me. I agree. Yes, on purpose. That's why she filed. Yeah. I wonder who's behind this. I'm not a fan, guys, because and again, it's not saying this is 100% going to happen. But to me, it's setting the stage for the possibility of PR. Because again, I'm immersed in this world. So it's just how my brain works. To pull out these statements, because look, they talk all about the kids. And then they're like, we'll end workplaces. Workplaces too. Well, if you ask me, I think her kids were at risk in a workplace, but they don't seem to mention that. Well, so far, I don't know. I talk so much. We're like 3 pages in, or we're 17 pages in. I'd like to see them address that kids can also be negatively impacted in the workplace, including with Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. But I bet they don't say that. So they say workplaces too remain fraught with risk, with as many as 85% of women experiencing SH or assault. These numbers are even higher among women of color, immigrants, low-wage workers, and LGBTQ plus individuals who often face additional vulnerabilities and reduced access to institutional support. I'd be interested to get that number. It says there's a study. I'm going to look into that separately because we're probably going to go way over today. But let me just pull this over and put a note for myself in my notes. Because it seems high, right? But I want to know, how'd you get that 85%? Like, what are you including in that? But regardless, it does happen in the workplace. And absolutely, for sure, 100% for certain populations, there's a higher risk and less reporting. It's true. But I also don't see this as like an excuse to support Blake Lively. I just don't see it. I'm sorry. She's saying her children were at risk since they were at work with her. Is that her angle? I think that's the angle Child USA should be taking, that her kids were at risk on Deadpool. Oh man, I didn't fill up my water before I got started. The pervasive nature of violence is matched only by the silence that surrounds it. Many victims, particularly children, suffer in silence for decades before they talk to anyone about their traumatic experiences. An estimated 70% of child abuse survivors never report their abuse to law enforcement or child protection authorities. Among adult survivors, many wait years, often decades, before disclosing their experience to anyone. In fact, the best evidence shows that 44.9% of male and 25.4% of female abuse survivors delay disclosure by more than 20 years. Survivors often delay or avoid disclosure for a host of complex and see, I just don't understand how any of this is related to Blake, to be honest. To begin with, survivors frequently contend with post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, dissociation, and other issues. I don't want to say that word because I'll get struck, that make immediate disclosure difficult. Well, Blake just backtracked. Blake was just like, I'm dropping 10 and 11. So among child victims, early trauma, the children again, early trauma can profoundly disrupt neurological development. Yeah, of course. Increasing risk of chronic health problems, poverty, substance abuse, and re-victimization, 110%. Absolutely. In fact, in university, my interest was risk versus resilience. I was always interested in, how do you have like twins from the same family and say a bad neighborhood, and one, exact same experiences more or less, and one goes off to really struggle with the law, for example, and drug use, and the other goes off and becomes like a doctor or something. So that was always a really big interest of mine in school. Survivors may also delay disclosure due to psychological barriers such as shame, self-blame, or fear of not being believed, as well as social factors such as gender-based stereotypes or stigma regarding victimization. In educational or workplace settings. See, I think they should have not put the kids thing in. Because one, I think you're just getting people fuel to be like, yeah, I agree. There's issues with kids. Look at what happened. Look what Inez was forced to do. But I think it's just being intentionally inflammatory, in my opinion. So they get back to workplace settings. These fears are often exacerbated by structural or institutional barriers. Blake had no institutional barriers. She was leading it every step of the way. Every step of the way, Blake was in control. She knew where to go. She knew how to contact the New York Times. You mean to tell me she couldn't have gone in the New York Times earlier? And then people might argue, well, you know, like she wanted to finish the movie or this or that. If it was that dangerous, the set, I don't believe someone with power like Blake would have waited to go to the New York Times after. I just don't believe it. And this is the problem. This is now the problem that she's created, because people are questioning the law, and they're also, what she's done is set up the situation for people to be like, see, don't believe women. See, don't believe everyone. Because now you have her and that crazy woman that was supporting her, who was proven to be leveraging SH claims to take a man down. So confidentiality agreements. Blake didn't even sign her contract. Forced arbitration. She brought the checklist to them. And hostile or dismissive responses. What you mean, like Jamie Heath giving Jenny Slate and being like, motherhood's sacred, so I want you to be in an apartment that you feel safe. So here's $15,000 so that you can find an apartment that you feel safe at while filming. That kind of dismissive. I still think Jenny Slate and Blake Lively were hoping that Jamie Heath was like, suck it up, buttercup. This is what you get. Like, too bad, so sad. But instead, he goes on about the sanctity of motherhood and how important it is for like her to be safe with her kid. And it's like, look, let us cover the deposit that you put down. So no, I do not see how they were dismissed. Two complaints can make reporting feel not only futile, but dangerous. It's unsurprising that up to 94% of individuals who experience workplace SH never file a formal complaint. Similarly, in the school setting, why do we keep bringing the kids in? Less than 10% of harassed students in grades 7 to 12 notify a school official, and only 11% of college survivors report their experience to campus authorities. You want it like, I don't know, guys. I'm wondering, because Ryan has supported sick kids, and she has done some work, like, I don't know if it's like just volunteer work or donating money or whatever with children organizations. I wonder if she's trying to like reputation launder, which is hilarious, by the way, because I have videos. For those that are new to the channel, like, subscribe, check out some of my playlists under the media manipulation headline or playlist. I have a video saying that Ryan Reynolds was astroturfing and narrative or reputation laundering. And now she's accusing, in her latest bullshit filings and everything, her team's accusing Justin Baldoni of reputation laundering. I know y'all watch my shit, Blake and team. You keep repeating words I'm using. Or I'm just so on to you, and that's why you keep using me in your hit pieces. Notably, fear of retaliation remains one of the strongest deterrents to disclosure across all demographics and settings. Sadly, survivors who come forward have legitimate reasons to anticipate that they will suffer adverse consequences as a result. In fact, a national review of more than 3,300 individuals who contacted the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund found that over 70% experienced some form of retaliation after reporting workplace SH, including termination, demotion, and reprisal of threats by the harasser. More than 15% were explicitly threatened with legal action for disclosing their abuse. Well, here's the thing. Another story I covered is the funny thing. We have Blake Lively's ride or die, Ari Emanuel and WME, right? Do you guys remember what happened with Terry Crews when he came out about SA, not just SH, at WME? Let me know if you guys remember that video in the comments. What happened to Terry Crews? What did WME and Ari Emanuel do to Terry Crews? And I have videos on it for anyone new to the channel. Because these people want to keep going on and on about all this bullshit. Well, really, who the power player that's supporting Blake overall is WME, let's be honest. But when Terry Crews came out, very close, Leo. Yeah, very close. When Terry Crews came out about the SA that happened by an agent at WME, they originally ignored him. So they originally just kind of swept it under the rug. Now, there hasn't been a particular name that's been attached to this, but he has spoken about this. and I have it in the video about Terry Crews in my playlist. He was told that if he just let it go, he'd get leading man roles. Yep. But in terms of firing, something I want to say about that, I do believe the one movie he was in, he did not come back for the next one. So yeah, you could argue that maybe he was fired. That's a good point, Leo. So he was told if he kept it quiet, that he would be a leading man, he would get those roles, and they swept it under the rug. So yeah, this shit happens, but you're defending people that are so entrenched in the system of shit, this system of protecting each other, this system of like leveraging things against people. This is not who you want to have your name attached to, Child USA. Watch some of my media manipulation playlists. I'd be retracting this shit. I'd be like, sorry, we had a momentary lapse of sanity and we are retracting everything we said because we caught up on this lawsuit, and holy F. So yeah, that happened. And then I can't remember exactly if they let Terry Crews go. Eventually, when Terry Crews started speaking out about it, that agent was let go from WME. But he left. And I can't remember if he was fired from WME or if he willingly left, but he has talked out about essentially being blacklisted from the industry now. And he has 2 books that are very similar to stuff that Justin Baldoni's talked about as well. So go support Terry Crews because he is wonderful and he's spoken out a lot about stuff. So anyway, let's continue. Back to this Child USA Amicus Brief supporting Blake Lively, because we have to believe Blake Lively. The way individuals and institutions respond to survivor discourse can be as consequential as abuse itself. Research shows that hostile or dismissive responses to survivor disclosures significantly exacerbate psychological harm, including increased rates of major depressive disorder and PTSD. She came out and said, no, I'm taking out those 2, 10 and 11. Take that up with Blake. Many reported feelings of isolation, hopelessness, and a heightened vulnerability to future victimization. Isolation, let's just see. When Blake claimed to be isolated, she showed up at SNL and made fun of the situation with her crazy husband. Isolation, let's see. I have seen more of Blake Lively than I have my entire life. I am not a Gossip Girl person, so I never really followed Blake. But I always saw her as kind of like the Met Gala darling. You know, I really liked, I'm not really into fashion, but I really liked the dresses she would wear to the Met Gala. But that's who I knew Blake as. I don't think she's been isolated. There's no way that woman's been isolated. I can't not see her as her and her team flood the narrative, which is a PR tactic. Together, these psychological and social and institutional forces operate to silence survivors and shield perpetrators. Without legal protections like California Civil Code 47.1 that address these barriers, disclosure remains the exception, not the norm, and the epidemic of violence persists in the shadows. B, retaliatory defamation lawsuits reinforce the culture of silence around SA. The groundswell of survivor disclosures ushered in by the Me Too movement. So you're trying to attach Blake to the Me Too movement. Bold strategy. Was swiftly met with an aggressive legal counteroffensive as powerful men accused of SA turned to defamation lawsuits to punish their accusers. In some of these situations, you got to admit that it did come out later that there were a lot of people just jumping on the bandwagon. Not saying there were not legit accusations. These lawsuits, often categorized as strategic lawsuits against public participation, SLAPs, are filed not to vindicate reputation, but to chill the valid exercise of constitutional right of freedom of speech and petition for the redress of grievances. I would say that Justin's filings are to vindicate himself. I think y'all need to be hit with a defamation lawsuit now. So now you're saying what? That Justin's just doing this to, it's like just, again, what Blake's whole narrative is. The abuser playbook. This is the abuser playbook. He defends himself, abuser playbook. Y'all need to be hit with defamation lawsuits. A Titan cannot be isolated. Well, that's a good point too. Valid point. JB should tell the judge that Blake Lively is using the media for clickbait and say Yeah, and she says they do. I agree. 100%. That's all they do, her and her team. And this, to me, is just defaming Justin Moore, hidden behind, well, we're allowed to do it because it's a lawsuit. We're allowed to say this. Because you're just saying that him, like it's not to vindicate reputation, someone that does what Justin's doing, but to chill the valid exercise of constitutional rights of freedom. Oh, they're designed to discredit survivor accounts, discourage others from speaking out, and regain narrative control by using the legal system as a tool for retribution. Blake is the queen of narrative control. Since 2017, organizations like Legal Momentum and the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund have documented a significant increase in defamation claims brought against survivors. One national study found that nearly 1 in 4 student survivors had been threatened with defamation, while others were explicitly warned that lawsuits would follow if they disclosed their abuse. Such suits were once more common on college campuses, where nearly 3 in 4 were filed by male students or faculty. The trend has since shifted. Today, most defamation lawsuits brought in response to SH or assault allegations are filed by non-student professionals, including execs, politicians, celebrities, and athletes. Threatening or initiating a defamation suit can be a highly effective means of silencing the survivor, particularly because of the immense financial and emotional burden such litigation imposes. I'm surprised they didn't put, especially if billionaire Steve Sarowitz is on the other side. They missed an opportunity there. Like Blake loves adding that. They really missed an opportunity. Estimates suggest that the average cost of defending a civil lawsuit ranges from $43,000 for a straightforward tort case to more than $90,000 for complex disputes. I don't even understand what this has to do with Blake. Like $90,000 is probably a drop in the puddle of what she spends monthly on PR and her legal shit right now. Get behind people that are actually struggling, Child USA. Get behind people that actually need someone to fucking fight for them. This is sickening. I'm sorry. When cases involve powerful and wealthy plaintiffs or extensive discovery litigation, expenses can reach as much as $1 million to $7 million. Survivors, particularly women, low-wage workers, do not compare Blake to low-wage workers and vulnerable populations. Ask her about Boone Hall, Child USA, and other economically marginalized groups, or her $169 Black Lives Matter, was it Black Lives Matter muffins or something? She's a nut. Are often unable to shoulder these costs. High-profile cases like there you go. Damn it. We should have had a bingo card before we got started, guys. I let you down. Johnny Depp was mentioned. High-profile cases like those involving Johnny Depp and Dr. Luke underscore how even well-resourced survivors can face financial devastation and public vilification. So are they saying that? Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like they just need to get some names in there. The cost imposed by retaliatory defamation suits are compounded by the financial burden survivors already bear as a result of the underlying abuse. For example, a 2017 study estimated that the lifetime cost of SA per survivor exceeds $122,000, resulting in a cumulative social burden of more than $3.1 trillion. Likewise, the average cost per non-fatal female victims of child SA is estimated to be $282,734, including but not limited to $14,357 in child medical costs. Why are kids being brought up again? The only thing I can pin on that is to be intentionally inflammatory. The emotional toll of defamation litigation is equally severe. Survivors are routinely subject to invasive discussion. There you go. See, this is what I'm trying to figure out. What are they talking about there? Are they saying that Blake is Amber or Blake is Johnny Depp? Is Blake Dr. Luke? I think that sentence was like, it had to have been miswritten. It had to have been miswritten because I don't know, guys. I can't answer that for you because I also in my head was like, I don't know, we're just going to keep scrolling. So I don't even know what they're trying to say. So invasive discovery, is this where Blake's going to be like, see, even Child USA says it's invasive. And that's why I'm dropping 10 and 11. It's too invasive. Blake Heard, literally. Blake is everyone. So is that there to be like, see? Invasive discovery. Oh, public character attacks. Enforced re-examination of traumatic events. So Blake shouldn't have to go to discovery. She shouldn't have to provide any proof. Legal scholar Mary Ann Franks observes for survivors, the process is the punishment. And it is hard. When I worked in the mental health field, I would be with girls, young girls under the age of 18 at their trials against sometimes family members for SA trials. And it's horrific. But I just don't understand how they're putting all this with Blake Lively. Did she think that she could just say that I'm emotionally distressed and traumatized, and my kids are traumatized and my husband's traumatized, but there'd be no discovery? I legit think that's what she believed. Pamela Lopez, a survivor and slap target, put it even more starkly. Defamation lawsuits against survivors like me can feel like being assaulted all over again. I don't know, guys. This is like, and the problem is, what does Justin's team do? Because every time they say anything, Blake's like, abuser playbook, PR, media. Watch, you'll start to see the pattern every time. If you haven't noticed it yet, which you probably have. Every time Justin even defends himself in the court of law, abuser playbook, media, PR. These legal tactics are also rooted in discredited myths about false reporting. Many retaliatory defamation suits rely on sexist tropes that presume victims lie for revenge, fame, or regret. Sorry, my voice cracked there because I can't believe this is even being said. There's no way. Do you guys think they know anything about this lawsuit? There's no way they know about this lawsuit and wrote this with a straight ass face. Oh, good point. Blake also copied Ryan's ad for his vodka and her drinks, sitting in some chair and wearing a shirt. No original ideas in that woman's head yet. And I agree. Her commercials for alcohol lines are beyond distasteful and talk about sexualizing everything. Yep. But what's good for, Blake, no one else can do. Blake's allowed to do it. No one else can do it. Wow. There's no way they know about this case. Like, the only reasonable thing I can agree on, or I can see as being a possibility, is they were given a sizable donation and asked to write something about the dangers of this law being stricken down, because there's no way with a straight face you can put that in something about Blake Lively. Sadly, who also is admitted to revenge and doing things that are sketchy, like trying to turn the entire set and cast against Penn Badgley. Sadly, it can take 3 to 4 women testifying that they have been violated by the same man in the same way to even begin to make a dent in his denial. That makes a woman, for credibility purposes, 1/4 of a person. Oh, for crying out loud. Yet rigorous studies consistently show that false reports of SA are exceedingly rare. Estimated between 2 and 8%, a rate comparable to or lower than other felonies. Even these figures are likely inflated. Oh, come on. As reports are often mislabeled false when victims recant under pressure or when cases are closed due to insufficient evidence rather than any proof of fabrication. So is that what they're just going to go with? Is this Blake setting the stage for her new PR angle? Like, I feel like they're just setting the stage for their new PR angle here. Because, one, yeah, there are false reports, but then they well, guys, it's comparable or lower than other felonies. So, are we really going to split hairs over this? It's just 2 to 8%. My question would be what about the person on the other side of that 2 to 8%? Do we just write them off as it's for the greater good? Sorry, dude, your life was destroyed, but it's for the greater good. So you have to go down because we can't risk the rest. Thanks, Leo. Like the stream, guys. Make sure to subscribe. Join the chat. It's a great chat here. I have no doubt you'll feel welcome. And then they're like, well, yeah, it's 2 to 8%, but like, really, that person, was forced to recant. I almost wonder if they're trying to set the stage for Blake trying to drop this, or at the very least, her trying to drop, or her looking at dropping 10 and 11, which is the emotional distress. Like, yeah, okay, well, you're saying there's insufficient evidence, but this is part and parcel of this kind of case. It's not Blake's fault. She's not a liar. I'm really curious to see what happens from here, because this feels sketchy. Simply put, the stereotypes about vengeful or fame-seeking accusers are not born out of evidence. Oh my God. In fact, survivors gain little and often lose greatly, emotionally, economically, reputationally, by coming forward. Her reputation was in the shitter, Child USA, before all of this, and it was organic. I believed Blake right off the get-go because, like I said, my background was in this field. So I believed Blake initially. I even had to have a video, I think it's still up, where I'm talking like, she's not a bully, she's just misunderstood. You made me look like a fool, Blake. And I don't think that well, I don't want to say that. What she's losing in terms of reputationally is by her own hand. It has nothing to do with Justin. Like, to say survivors they gain little and lose greatly, she gains a lot. If she made that accusation and he folded, he gave her the rights to the second one, he stepped away, his life was destroyed, she could gain a lot. How much did that movie make? How much did that fucking movie make? $351 million worldwide against a $25 million budget. Don't you dare tell me that this woman had nothing to lose or nothing to gain. If part of this was like, he steps away and she has crunchy energy. That's what I used to say all the time. She has crunchy energy. See? I have proof that I was on Blake's side in the beginning. Leo's laughing at me. It's true though. I was. I'm not afraid to admit it. She had the potential, if he stepped away and gave her the rights to the second one, which reports say Ryan tried to buy the second one from Justin. I don't know if those were ever fully confirmed, but there were reports running that Ryan had tried to buy it. She has a cool 351 million plus to earn from this. By contrast, alleged perpetrators often have powerful incentives, financial, reputational, and political, to sue in an effort to suppress survivor speech. He was literally let go from WME because of Ryan Reynolds. He lost everything. Everything. And you people have the audacity. I'm genuinely hoping that, because I don't want to believe that this is malicious and nefarious. Probably is. I'm genuinely hoping that Child USA has no idea about the case. Like, they have not been following it. Or if they've been following it, it's just from Blake's side, because I do not know how you, with a straight face, submit this to the court. It should be struck. Like, this is so inappropriate. This is inappropriate. I know nothing about the law, so it might be appropriate in terms of the law. But to me, I feel sick over this. Legislative history and context demonstrate that California Civil Code 47.1 was enacted to address existing legal gaps and protect survivors from retaliatory defamation claims. California Civil Code 47.1 enacted through Assembly Bill 933. Okay, so that's what the Women's California group was saying. In 2024, a targeted legislative response to the misuse of defamation law to punish survivors of SA. Rooted in a strong legislative record, the statute ensures survivors can speak out without facing retaliatory litigation that causes emotional, reputational, and financial harm. Here's the thing, Child USA. Had Blake just been like, fuck and dropped this from the beginning. The way the news cycle works, like you can even look at trends on Google and it was already dying down. All the initial buzz about Blake and issues on set. She's the one that brought it back up in the press. And she continued to go to the press with it. She made this public with a sham lawsuit that kicked it all off. And then a New York Times article. Okay, let's just continue. Rooted in a strong legislative record, the statute ensures survivors can speak out without facing retaliatory litigation. Okay, we already read that. Assembly Bill 933 was enacted to close the gap. Pretty much already read that. They've already said it. The legislature recognized that robust remedies were necessary to give the privilege meaningful effect. The legislator understood that without strong economic deterrence, the legal protections for survivor speech promised by Assembly Bill 933 would lack practical effect. For that reason, lawmakers included robust remedies, namely reasonable attorney's fees, court costs, and treble and punitive damages for survivors who prevail in retaliatory defamation suits. As the Senate Judiciary Committee explained, the financial burden of defending against a defamation suit is one of the main reasons those suits tend to evoke so much fear in survivors. Even if they ultimately prevail, survivors are often unable to take on the cost and emotional toll of such lengthy and costly litigation. And here's the thing, guys. I'm not going to pretend I have all the answers, but I also don't think that it's fair to just essentially what they're saying is, yeah, there's 2 to 8% that are false accusations, but it just seems like they gloss over that of like, they're just caught in the crosshairs. Like it's for the greater good. And I don't have an answer to what the right way to go about this is, because the reality is these are real realities for people. And that's horrible. But maybe we should start blaming the 2 to 8% Blake Lively instead of being like, oh, okay, well, those falsely accused, it's for the greater good. Maybe there should be more harsh, laws for people like Blake Lively. But then she could just argue, well, look at Child USA is also saying that there's usually not enough evidence. So to address this imbalance, the legislator deliberately included enhanced damages in addition to fee shifting, acknowledging that powerful plaintiffs may otherwise treat ordinary litigation costs as an acceptable price for suppressing speech. I wonder who they're talking to there. What do you think they're addressing there without saying it? Was it Blake, one of her filings that came out, and apparently Steve Sarwat said he's willing to spend $100 million to destroy her? I don't know. I think she wants to be seen as a victim of the Me Too movement as well. Who would ever want to work with her? Good question. That was a great question. Financial intimidation remains a powerful deterrent to speech. I just feel like this is, again, something Blake can use of like, again, look at Steve Sarwat said he'd spend $100 million to destroy my life. Look at even Child USA supporting me. Assembly Bill, which I also want to know, did anyone ever figure out where that statement came from, or did just Blake make that up in her head? Did anyone provide proof on where that came from? So Assembly Bill 933 was enacted as part of California's comprehensive legislative strategy to modernize its legal framework in response to the realities of SHSA and the barriers survivors face to seeking justice. So it says notable examples include Assembly Bill 1619, extending the civil statute of limitations for SA to 10 years. Senate Bill 813, eliminating the criminal statute of limitations for certain felony offenses. And Senate Bill 820, the STAND Act, which prohibits non-disclosure clauses and settlement agreements involving claims of SA harassment or discrimination. Collectively, these laws reflect an evolving understanding that trauma, fear of retaliation, and institutional silencing have historically suppressed survivor voices. Keep going. California's Civil Code 47.1 comports with First Amendment principles by protecting survivor speech and deterring abusive litigation. Like, they just keep, like, to me, I'm taking this as they're accusing Justin of abusive litigation. Then they say, under this headline, retaliatory defamation lawsuits are not protected petitioning activity under the First Amendment. The right to petition the government to redress of grievances is guaranteed by both federal and California state constitutions. The Noor-Pennington Doctrine was developed to safeguard that right by conferring immunity from civil liability for genuine petitioning activities, including those involving courts. All right. Retaliatory defamation lawsuits against survivors of SA or SH often fall within the well-established sham litigation exception. What else falls under sham litigation? Does Blake Lively's sham Zan lawsuit, as I tend to call it because I just put the words together, her sham Zan lawsuit fall against sham litigation? Or are y'all playing Google SEO games and you're hoping this is picked up to push down your sham Zan lawsuit? So retaliatory defamation lawsuits. So they're saying Justin Baldoni is falling under sham litigation. That is wild. I am just flabbergasted. Pretty sure it was made up hearsay. Trust me, bro. Evidence number I lost count. Yeah, we need like a count on that. Oh, okay. All right, you can do this, Ashley. Just keep going. You have lots of coffee. It's good. These suits frequently lack credible evidence of falsity, malice, or actual harm, and are filed despite corroboration for witnesses, internal investigations, or contemporaneous reports. Am I the only one that sees this as a jab towards Justin directly? This is wild, especially with everything coming out about internal investigations right now. And we just got that article that came out about TMZ and the body double for Justin Baldoni, who apparently was supporting Blake and saying, yeah, there was all this tension on set. Were they building up with their PR? Remember I said, we've been saying something's coming. I don't know. Their PR could have been like, oh, see, like people that are reading this. Well, this makes sense. Like, that's why she had, like, these guys are coming out. This guy, the body double's even coming out saying there were issues on set. And oh my gosh, I'm seeing these headlines that, you know, they're not cooperating with her in terms of this internal investigation. And keep in mind, when they say their true purpose is to punish survivors for engaging in protected speech, they're speaking to Justin Baldoni. And, you know, here's the thing. I genuinely do not like going after organizations like this. Like in my head, like I do struggle a lot internally with it, but it feels so disingenuous to the point of being malicious against Justin Baldoni. And I just want to know what they get from this. Because if you guys are just coming on, make sure to watch the start, or you can like hang out with us here if you don't want to start at the beginning. You can hang out with us live, but go back and watch the start, because we did talk about on May 27th the California women's group that came out. Well, it turned out Blake Lively's lawyer was on the board of one of the organizations that's coming out supporting Blake Lively. And there's no way you guys, like, well, I know you guys wouldn't. You guys wouldn't. This community is intelligent, critical thinkers. But there's no way that you can tell me, you as in the world, that there wasn't money that exchanged hands for Blake Lively to be considered a Titan on Times 100. I'm sorry. There is no way in hell that I will agree that she was legit a Titan. I just won't. I'm sorry. I'm not buying that shit. There's no way. So we continually see this bullshit support for her. So it does make me question their motive here. I agree. All these organizations coming out, obviously this is a coordinated effort, which makes Blake's sister works for Page 6. Interesting. I did not know that. Thank you for letting us know. I'm which makes a lot of her PR make sense, right? So we've been looking at her PR, and a lot of her PR is speaking to these points that they're speaking to. And they've been prepping a lot of this PR up until this point. California Civil Code 47.1 advances core First Amendment values and serves compelling safe state interests, although plaintiffs contend that 47.1 impermissibly restricts the right to petition. That argument misconstrues the scope of First Amendment protections. The right to petition the government for redress of grievances, like other constitutional rights, is not obsolete or absolute, sorry. As the Supreme Court observed in Bill Johnson's Restaurant Inc. versus NLRB, the First Amendment interests are strongest when the suit raises genuine grievances. But where litigation is used as a tool of intimidation. See, so this is what pisses me off. Again, it's like, okay, yeah, 2 to 8% of people, there's like false claims. And sure, there might be genuine grievances, but what we're talking about here is litigation used as a tool of intimidation, particularly against vulnerable speakers. Blake is not a vulnerable speaker. This is wild. What else do they have to say? So they say silencing survivors has demonstrated public health and safety consequences. SA, especially child abuse. There we go. We're bringing kids into again. Has literally nothing to do with this case unless Child USA is taking the stance that Blake and Ryan did wrong by their child. That is the only way child abuse comes into this case. This is wild. Oh, so we're also saying SA and SH is serial in nature. So now they're not just saying that he's a predator, but he's a serial predator. Wow. And you could argue, and I can see someone being like, no, that's not what they're saying. They're saying in general. I don't care. They're inserting themselves in a case where the other party has filed against Blake Lively. So no, I'm not going to take a stance of like, this is just in general, because they've inserted themselves between Blake and Justin to say, we support Blake Lively, and this is why. Because people that do those things that, she's accusing Justin of are serial in nature. In one study, 7% of sampled offenders, now he's an offender, were responsible for abusing between 41 and 450 children. Oh, we're on to children again. And the longest time between offense and conviction was 36 years. So what, Blake's doing a public service here? I agree. This is dangerous for the legal system. And I agree. No one came out against Justin. The best they could do was Jenny complaining about someone that Jamie Heath is not even Justin, complaining because he offered to pay her deposit $15,000 so that she could be safe with her kid. This is just irresponsible. It's so irresponsible. I cannot even believe it. And I'm not a lawyer, so whatever. It's probably allowed. Maybe. I don't know. But you're putting a lot of inflammatory language. Now you're bringing in serial predators of children into this. This is inappropriate. And it gives so much it'll be interesting. I'm going to be keeping an eye on what's happening on Google primarily, because it does give a lot for paid off publications to run with. And I know there's like, you're going to hear some PR people say it's like, that's not true. They don't pay off publications. They don't pay off journalists. Yeah, but okay, it might not be that, so-and-so, Ryan Reynolds is giving $1 million to a certain journalist. Although, how are you ever going to track that? Show me how you actually track that for the PR people that say that it never happens. Just saying. I've also been in the industry for a long time. But two, they do get also paid, because at the end of the day, if you are saying something against Blake and Ryan and WME is like, fine, you're not getting access to any of our clients. That is, if you add up how much money they make across all their publications that they own, cutting off everyone that's associated with WME, even if it's not like I'm transferring $1 million to your bank account, that publication is losing out on millions. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in Google over the next few days and the next week and what it picks up from this. If it does, Google picked up the last one. There were articles from her previous organizations that came out to support her. So I wouldn't be surprised. So the decades before a victim is ready to disclose give perpetrators and institutions wide latitude to suppress the truth of detriment of children, parents, and the public. By empowering survivors to speak out, 47.1 reduces the time predators and complicit organized institutions remain hidden, which helps prevent those predators. They keep using that word. I agree. Isn't this organization's mission to protect vulnerable children? And they're applying it to a celebrity. It is so weird. She's activated, playing angering us all. I have the sage ready for today. I literally saged my office after all of this. That word's weird to see that word come up over and over and over and over and over again when we know that Ryan Reynolds called him a predator. And oh my God, now we're bringing Jeffrey Epstein in this. Indeed, in high-profile abuse cases, such as those involving Larry Nassar, Jeffrey Epstein, and the Catholic Church, they've brought the Catholic Church into this, guys. The Catholic Church has entered the chat. A single survivor disclosure often catalyzes waves of additional reports, leading to an institutional reckoning and widespread reform. I'd also like to know what widespread reform happened with Epstein. Because didn't Ghislaine end up going to trial for it, and she got convicted for trafficking children to no one? To no one? No names were mentioned. You want reform? Start to get lists of people that were involved. Because Ghislaine, which I'm not saying Ghislaine is innocent or a good person, but I find it highly suspect that she went to jail without, children to no one. But wow, we now have Johnny Depp, Epstein, Catholic Church. So are they comparing Justin to these people? This is wild. I keep thinking it can't get more wild as we go, but it does. Section 47.1 fosters that same dynamic by encouraging public dialogue and enabling survivors to speak without fear. Importantly, 47.1 is narrowly tailored to achieve those aims. It grants immunity only to disclosures made in good faith and without malice. I think we're at the point where it's been proven Blake did this with malice. And its remedies are available only when a defamation claim fails as a matter of law. By adopting the Supreme Court's actual malice standard, 47.1 carefully aligns survivor protection with well-established constitutional limits on defamation liability. Are we not there yet? That this was malice? Are we really not there yet? In doing so, it mirrors the structure of anti-SLAPP statutes and malicious prosecution doctrines that have repeatedly been upheld as valid constitutional exercises of state power. The statute is also content neutral. It protects a variety of speech, factual, non-malicious disclosures about violence without regard to viewpoint or ideological perspective. To strike down the statute would grant individuals credibly accused of SA and SH a constitutionally sanctioned weapon to sue their victims into silence. I'm surprised they didn't say into oblivion. But I feel like it's a jab at that. To strike down statute would grant essentially Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer that have been credibly accused, it says, because again, they're getting in between Blake and Justin. So you could say, no, that's not what they mean. Well, then don't get between Blake and Justin. Because what this is reading then, getting between the two of them, is saying he was credibly accused and you are handing him a weapon to sue his victims into oblivion. Good faith in Blake is laughable. Yes. I would agree with that. Turning a blind eye, I think this is literally what corruption is. I think so too. When that is doing that is against the values of a free and democratic society and incompatible with the constitutional framework protecting free expression. Wow. California Civil Code 47.1 reflects a national trend towards increased protection for survivors. We should have protection for survivors. But in my view, it should not then mean that too bad, so sad for this 2 to 8%, which they also try to minimize to be like, well, is it really 2 to 8%, or is it like 0%? It might be 0. Like Child USA has that in that section. It might be 0, because if you look at it, we're not talking about like lack of evidence or feeling pressure, so they dropped the case. So 2 to 8%, potato might be 0 that falsely accused. This is wild. I was not prepared for this, guys. I was not prepared for this. And look at this. I thought it was SH. I thought that Blake was upset because he said she smelled good, came into her trailer after she told him to, but now it's violence. I can't even believe this. California Code 47.1 is part of a growing national movement to enact speech protection laws that guard against defamation suits and other forms of legal intimidation aimed at silencing survivors and to increase meaningful access to justice. I genuinely, what I would like to see is these organizations come out and support Justin and take a stand and say what this wasn't intended for was for people to falsely accuse and then try to destroy someone's life. What this wasn't intended for is what is happening right now. That's what I would have liked to see. Since the Me Too movement reignited a public reckoning with violence, SASH, several states have enacted or proposed legislation that mirrors California's efforts, which is also a problem. I'm just going to say it, also a problem if what's coming out from this is that people are being falsely accused. It's being weaponized, which I think Blake is doing. It's being allegedly being weaponized against people. I think this is more relevant than ever to look at, where is the hole in this? Where's the problem with this legislation? But because we can't just have people that are accused of things falsely just be collateral damage of this and be like, oh, well, it's worth it because it's helping the real survivors. So I think more than ever, if this is catching on, now it matters to look at what the problems are with this. Doesn't mean you have to do away with survivor protection. It means that you critically think and you look at, okay, we have this law. Are there problems with it? Is it being used as revenge? Is it being used to falsely accuse people? Is it being used as a shield to take people down? That's what cases like this should be opening up discourse around. Not shield Blake because holy shit, it might ruin this whole law. Well, maybe your law has a hole in it and y'all need to address that. instead of allowing innocent men, and I'm sure women as well, be used as collateral damage. Is that too difficult for these organizations to be like, man, okay, critical thinking, there's a problem with this. If people like Blake are using this to retaliate, maybe we need to look at this. But I don't think anyone will take that stance because people are afraid to come out and say it. Recently, the Oregon General Assembly introduced Bill 180, which, if passed, would classify statements by survivors of SA harassment or discrimination as privileged unless made with malice. How do you prove it is made with malice unless the other party is allowed to bring a suit against them? And authorize fee shifting and remedial sanctions for prevailing defendants. And here's the thing, like, I don't know about the process. Maybe you could argue, well, like, they have to go through the whole trial and then they can prove it. Well, what happens to that person's reputation in the meantime? As it's like, I genuinely don't know the US legal system. So maybe someone's like, but actually you don't get it. Like, you know, you can prove it's made with malice because she's going to bring those charges. It goes to court and then they can prove that was made with malice during that court case, that particular court case. But what happens to someone in the meantime that's been falsely accused? Look what happened to Justin. I think he has every right to bring a defamation suit against her, to start clearing his name now as best as he can. That's going to be a stain on him forever. And that unless made with malice, I would put my life on the fact she never thought it would get this far. And there's probably a lot of people that would think, I'll make these allegations against someone that's like married, as an example, or, you know, doesn't want to deal with the backlash on their business or something online, or the PR fallout of it. So I'm going to make these allegations and they'll settle and it'll go away. So how is it ever proven that it was malice? I just think it's a dangerous slope. Advocates emphasize to the legislator that defamation lawsuits silence survivors and that the bill would ensure that survivors in Oregon are empowered and protected when they speak against their assailants. In Maryland, the Stop Silencing Survivors Act creates a rebuttal presumption of good faith. So yeah, you can like prove it later, but we just like believe her, believe all women until you can prove otherwise in the lawsuit. For survivor disclosures, and requires courts to award costs to victims of meritless defamation lawsuits. New York has been at the forefront of these efforts. In 2020, it expanded its anti-SLAPP statute to cover any speech on matters of public interest and mandated attorney's fees for successful defendants. Yet, even with this reform, survivor advocates noted gaps in protection for disclosures made outside of formal proceedings. In 2020, New York lawmakers introduced the Adult Survivor Speech Act, which establishes an absolute privilege for good faith, non-malicious survivor communications, and includes similar remedies such as fee shifting, treble damages, and punitive damages. Similar bills have been introduced in New Mexico, Wisconsin, and other states. In addition to these survivor privileges, they've moved to limit or prohibit NDAs. In 2024, Louisiana Act Number 781, banning enforcement of non-dispute NDAs and non-disparagement clauses related to SA and SH. They just go on and on and on. These legislative reforms are united by a common policy rationale, dismantling the legal and structural barriers that have historically silenced survivors and shielded perpetrators from accountability. The conclusion. For the reasons set forth above, they respectfully urge the court to uphold the constitutionality of California Civil Code 47.1 in its entirety. I don't know, man. I wonder what Elsie. I sent her a message, but to see if she wanted to come on live, but she hasn't seen it. So I wonder if she's busy today. I sent her a text message. I don't know, guys. I just have a bad feeling about this. To me, it was just a way to like, why are we bringing children into it? That's just bizarre to me. Child USA doesn't seem to have like a stake in this fight, but now all of a sudden they are throwing their name in the ring. I don't know. I just think there's such an opportunity to look at maybe there are holes in this law. Maybe there are people that are caught in collateral damage with this. Because okay, yeah, you can argue, and I'm sure someone will make the argument of like, she brought the lawsuit. He can prove it in the lawsuit. His life is ruined. Like, he lost jobs, he lost awards, he lost his agency with WME. And to me, he's the one with all the proof. I don't know. All right, I'm going to look and see what else is on the docket. So this one I saw, I haven't looked into it more, but I'll let you guys know that it's up there. Which one is it? Is this the one? So I saw this come up, but I don't know more. I haven't looked into, I am so swamped by what's going on with Justin and Blake. I have not even caught up on what's going on with Jed Wallace. I'm going to be completely transparent. I can barely keep up with this. Oh, she's sick. Friends still answer friends' text messages. Friends still, I'm just joking, Elsie, if you're watching. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. So this came up. It said notice of filing. Blake Lively plaintiff versus Wayfarer Studios. Defendants Jed Wallace and Street Relations provide this notice of filing to give notice to the court that they filed a first amended complaint in Jed Wallace and Street Relations, Inc. versus Blake Lively, currently pending in the Western District of Texas on April 25th, 2025. Docket 21, amended complaint. The amended complaint dropped the declaratory judgment claim against Miss Lively. As such, only one count of defamation remains against Blake. So that's interesting. Again, I haven't had a chance to look into that more, but I just want to let you guys know about that. If I get a chance to look into what's going on with that case more, I'll have a look. But it looks like that he was letting this court know that he dropped the judgment, the declaratory judgment claim. So that's interesting. I'll see if I have a chance to go look at it. Let me refresh this. There's another one I want to show you guys. Where did I have it? Is this it? Consolidated plaintiff's opposition to consolidated defendant Ryan Reynolds' motion for Rule 11 sanctions against Jamie Heath, Steve Sarowitz, Melissa Nathan, Jennifer Abel. It ends with Us Movie LLC and their counsel. So this showed up yesterday as well. We'll look at it quick. Consolidated defendant Ryan Reynolds, Rule 11 motion, seeks sanctions against individual Wayfarer parties Jamie Heath, Steve Sarowitz, Melissa Nathan, Jennifer Abel, and it ends with Us Movie LLC and their counsel. Ironically, the motion itself borders on frivolous as it contravenes Rule 11's 1993 Advisory Committee notes. Rule 11 motion should not be employed as a discovery device or to test the legal sufficiency or efficacy of allegations in the pleadings. Other motions are available for this purpose. Thus, Rule 11 should not be confused with a Rule 12b-6 motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim for relief, and a Rule 11 motion based on deficiency in the pleadings is improper, particularly where, as here, it is based on arguments substantially identical to those made in support of a motion to dismiss failure to state a claim. Reynolds' motion is cynically silent. I love the subtle shade on that point, even though it was conveyed to Reynolds in plaintiff's response to Reynolds' Rule 11 safe harbor letters. Reynolds similarly fails to note that he has filed a Rule 12b-6 motion to dismiss, raising pleadings defects. Oh my gosh, reading for an hour and a half online. I don't know how like Emily D. Baker does it for like 10 hours. Defects that are substantially the same as those that are at the heart of his Rule 11 motion. Any other pleadings defects now raised by the motion are more properly raised in a motion to dismiss. Hi, baby. What you up to? What you up to? Are you getting bored? Do you want to say hi? Do you want to say hi? Say hi. Come here. You can't take my hat. You can't take my hat. You stink. You're so stinky. You're so silly. Oh no, now the dogs are up. Can you guys give me like 20 minutes? What do you think? You don't need to run around with that, sweetheart. I know. Are you bored? You're bored. You're bored. I know, sweetheart. I know. You can't have my hat because my hair's a mess. I know. I know. You guys are bored. The dogs don't find this interesting in the least. They're starting to get bored. I don't know how much time I'll have. I don't think oh, you have a toy? You want me to chase you? I can't chase you, sweetheart. I don't think anyone's home, sweetie. Is there? Just give me 1 second, make sure someone's not at the door. Guys, no one's here. No one's here. Okay, run. I know, you're bored. I know. Okay. Can we give mom like 20 minutes? 20 minutes. Run, sweetheart. Good girl. Okay. 20 minutes. If I lock you out, or no, I won't lock you because you guys will. All right. We're on borrowed time. We're on borrowed time, my friends. Okay. So factual background. On April 23rd, 2025, Reynolds directed 6 safe harbor letters threatening plaintiffs Heath, Sarowitz, Nathan, Abel, and It Ends With Us and their counsel with Rule 11 sanctions, collectively the letters, on the ground that the complaint fails to adequately plead claims for extortion, interference with contract, prospective economic relations, and breach of the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealings on behalf of individual plaintiffs grouped into the definition of Wayfarer parties. In a consolidated response, the Wayfarer parties explained to Reynolds that we have tried to explain this to him already, and yet here we are again. We have tried to explain. So they try to explain that Rule 11 does not apply to pleading deficits that were or were more properly raised in a Rule 12b6 motion to dismiss. Undeterred, Reynolds has now filed a Rule 11 motion. Undeterred. I'm such a fan of the subtle shade. Reynolds has now filed a Rule 11 motion on perceived pleading deficits that were raised or could have been raised and is pending Rule 12b6 motion to dismiss. So 1, the complaint fails to allege that Reynolds made extortionate threats to Sarowitz, Nathan, Abel, and It Ends With Us, or derived them of anything, and thus fails to state a claim of extortion against them. 2, so this is what Ryan Reynolds was claiming. 2, the complaint fails to allege that he, Sarowitz, Nathan, and Abel were parties to a contractual or economic relationship with WME and thus fails to state a viable interference claim against them. And 3, the complaint fails to allege Reynolds' defamatory statements regarding each individual plaintiff. Reynolds' Rule 11 motion subverts the very purpose of Rule 11 by impermissibly confusing Rule 11 sanctions with a Rule 12 motion to dismiss. I love this. I love this. And it's also kind of just like calling out, like, stop this shit. Stop playing games, Ryan Reynolds. Rule 11 sanctions are not available for perceived pleading deficiencies, which can be challenged by Rule 12b6 motion to dismiss. Rule 11 applies to pleadings and other papers filed with the district court, which certify that to the best of his knowledge, information, and belief formed after inquiry reasonable under the circumstances, the claims, defenses, and other legal contentions are warranted by existing law or by non-frivolous arguments for extending, modifying, or reversing existing law or for establishing new law. Reynolds ignores and asks this court to ignore. Well, you know, they need authorship. Reynolds and Blake need authorship. It's like they just do whatever the fuck they want. That, like, I think that's just the reality with them. Neither of them have been told no. They very clearly have narcissistic tendencies. And so he's like, whatever, still going to file it under this. So he's ignoring the advisory notes to Rule 11, which explicitly state that Rule 11 motions should not be employed as a discovery device or to test the legal sufficiency of the pleadings or efficiency of allegations in the pleadings. Other motions are available for those purposes. As explained in Blue versus U.S. Department of Army, claims that are plainly meritless should be disposed of early in the course of litigation through summary judgment or other pretrial motions. As a general matter, dismissal of a frivolous case on the merits should be first option, whereas imposition of sanctions should be a matter of last resort. So, okay, so this is where Ryan was saying that he wants sanctions against everything, against everyone. Now it's clear. I'm like, what am I missing? Ryan had said he wants sanctions against everyone. And Justin's team is like, y'all, you haven't even filed like a motion to dismiss. Like the first thing you should be doing is filing that. You should be filing to dismiss it, but that's not what you did. You're going to sanctions. That sanctions should be a matter of last resort. But Blake and Ryan just want sanctions for everyone. You read any of their legal filings and they're like, I want sanctions. What sanctions? I want sanctions on y'all and Child USA for the bullshit you pulled. All right, where else? A motion for Rule 11 sanctions is improper where, as here, it is substantially identical to the arguments made by defendants in support of their motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim. I feel like it's just like it's trying to PR at the end of the day. They want sanctions on everyone because it would look good for them if they got them. A Rule 11 motion should not be used as a substitute to a Rule 12b6 motion to dismiss or to obtain a decision on the merits at an early juncture in the litigation. However, resolving the defendant's arguments would require the court to make a factual determination regarding a claim essential to the merits of the actions, an issue for which a Rule 11 motion is an appropriate vehicle. Reynolds seeks sanctions for pleading deficiencies he has already attacked or could have attacked in his pending motion to dismiss. Blake and Ryan, literally, if you watch them, it's literally like everything Justin does. We want sanctions. We want sanctions. We want sanctions on that. And I love that Brian Freeman and Justin's team are calling it out. They're like, this isn't even the appropriate way to go about it. You are supposed to file to dismiss. So purported pleading deficits, particularly those already before the court in a pending motion to dismiss, are not a proper subject of a Rule 11 motion and fall far short of the rigorous test defining extraordinary misconduct worthy of Rule 11 sanctions. Reynolds is not entitled. I don't think anyone's told Blake or Ryan they're not entitled to something. Like, I just imagine the anger coming up with Blake and Ryan being told you are not entitled to that. You are not entitled. I imagine that line really got to Ryan. This was just filed yesterday. Reynolds is not entitled to an early depositive decision on the merits without discovery on his extensive factual arguments under the guise of a Rule 11 motion. And the fact that Reynolds believes he will prevail or deem any allegation against him as harassing is insufficient to justify Rule 11 sanctions. Discovery is still in its infancy and Rule 11, yeah, it's still in its infancy because Blake and Ryan aren't turning anything over and they're like, just joking, I'm just going to drop the case. Drop the 10 and 11. Although I do wonder if they're like trying to slowly drop it, but this is what I think. I think I've already said this, but that Child USA amicus brief just makes me think like, Blake and Ryan maybe are trying to slowly get out of it. And then we're like, but look we had all these organizations that say that, so many women and children are forced to drop the case because of like this pressure of discovery and it's invasive. And, we're just victims. We're victims. We're still victimized by Justin. We dropped the case, but look at the internet's still picking on us. My business is still negatively impacted. It's not my fault because I'm Blake Lively and everyone loves me, obviously. And, My life is ruined. But look at what all of these organizations that came out and supported me said, that this is what happens. Women are forced and strong-armed into dropping their case. And I hate to say it, like, not to make it as if one experience is worse than the other. The way Child USA had filed theirs, it was like the most horrific situations. And from what we've seen so far, it's like he said, "You smell good." Yes, he went in your trailer, but we have the text message that shows you told him to go into your trailer. Like, I don't know. This whole thing's wild. Continuing on this, on a final note, Reynolds fails to cite any authority for the notion articulated in this motion that by opposing the motion to dismiss rather than merely amending at the first hint of criticism, plaintiffs have abrogated the well-entrenched authority that Rule 11 does not apply to test the sufficiency of pleadings, particularly where motion to dismiss is pending. But another way, Reynolds fails to provide any support for the claim that plaintiffs are subject to Rule 11 sanctions for waiting until a ruling on the motion to dismiss is amended. This is not surprising, as there is none. In sum, the advisory notes to Rule 11 and relevant authority preclude Rule 11 sanctions, whereas here the request for sanctions is based on perceived pleading deficiencies that are or should have been challenged in Rule 12b, motion to dismiss. Indeed, Ryan Reynolds' Rule 11 motion at this juncture of the litigation, which is based on issues Reynolds raised in his pending motion to dismiss, or properly should have been raised in a Rule 12b-6 motion to dismiss, is not only premature, but entails a misuse of Rule 11. Accordingly, Reynolds' Rule 11 motion should be denied. Rule 11 does not apply to out-of-court statements. Although less than fully obvious, Reynolds appears to seek Rule 11 sanctions against plaintiffs and counsel based on allegedly harassing statements to the press. As Reynolds himself explains, the central purpose of Rule 11 is to deter baseless filings in district court. Thus, Rule 11 sanctions are not available for out-of-court statements, but are confined to court filings. Now I'm really starting to just believe that Ryan and Blake are doing all their legal shit themselves. Like, how does Ryan's team not know this? Everything that Child USA is accusing Justin Baldoni of is actually true about Blake and Ryan. I agree. Without Ryan, there is no Blake. I also agree with that. I think she's only protected because she's with him. Protected as in terms of like WME and Hollywood. Plaintiffs are entitled to sanctions for the reasons set forth above, and this failure to bring relevant authority to the court. Reynolds and his counsel should be sanctioned. I love this. Reynolds and his counsel should be sanctioned in an amount sufficient to compensate plaintiffs for the time and resources expended in responding to Reynolds' meritless Rule 11 motion and deter any future misuse of Rule 11. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Finally, someone has said it. Oh, this is happening for sure. Ryan's been reading the law book and now thinks he's a lawyer. For sure. Absolutely. And his lawyers are just signing off on it. Because how do they not know this? Other than if Blake and Ryan took authorship of this lawsuit. Wow. I hope they get sanctions. I'm so tired of Blake and Ryan being like, sanction them. You guys deserve sanctions. All the bullshit I've said from day one, not day one, but once I started to get on, realize Blake was a liar. I said that what you watch with Blake is everything she accuses Justin of is like a projection of what her and Ryan do. And I genuinely believe that they pull all these tactics because I have a video talking about astroturfing, talking about sock puppet accounts, talking about media manipulation and flooding and all of this. They've accused Justin of all that. I genuinely think it's simply because they do this shit. And so it's like, well, if we do it, other people must do it. Thank you guys. Yes, please like and subscribe. Hang out with us. It's a great community here. Conclusion. For the foregoing reasons, plaintiff respectfully requests that the court enter an order denying Reynolds' motion for sanctions in its entirety and awarding sanctions sufficient to compensate Wayfarer parties for their expenses in responding to Reynolds' Rule 11 sanctions. I would love for that to happen. All right. So That court filing was also yesterday that it hit the docket, and it's just basically Wayfarer and co. responding to Ryan wanting sanctions against them. And they're like, no, dude, we want sanctions against you because you're actually the one abusing the law and you're actually the one abusing the process. And I'm so happy to see it. All right, let's see what else is going on. Dogs fell back asleep. All right. They're all like worked up. Julia likes to go with Scott when he does errands, but she's stuck with me today. And so she gets really sad. Typical German Shepherd, right? When she doesn't have like a job and she's not out helping, she's like, what do you expect me to do? Just sit here while you talk on the internet? Like, that is boring to me. She likes having a job. Okay. What else do we have? We have is this it? Third-party defendant Joneswork LLC reply in further support of its motion to dismiss Jennifer Abel's third-party complaint seeking indemnification. Not even gonna lie, I can't even keep track of all these lawsuits anymore. The checks, oh my God, they drive me crazy. It's driving me nuts. All right, let's see. I can't even keep all these track anymore, but let's see what it says. Okay, so who's this again? Oh, Blake Lively versus Wayfarer, Jennifer Abel versus Joneswork, Wayfarer Studios versus Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Leslie Sloan, Vision PR, and the New York Times Company. So this is all about Joneswork. I have some videos on her too. So check out the media manipulation playlist. Jennifer Abel seeks to have it both ways. She alleges and counterclaims before this court that she was pursuing her own agenda despite being hindered in her efforts by her employer. Yet here she reverses course, claiming that her efforts fall under the preview of indemnification. She cannot do both, and her plea for indemnification must fail. In opposition, Abel tellingly runs away from her own words and admissions, tactfully acknowledging that the text messages that she has admitted to sending and receiving and her parallel filings doom her claims. I haven't seen anything where Jennifer Abel says that her claims are doomed. But again, I have not been following every single legal filing with this because, you know, I can only do so much as one human. Abel bizarrely insists in opposition that this court not consider the very actions for which she now seeks indemnification. She is mistaken when properly considered. The reality is beyond dispute. Abel's clandestine actions defied her employer and were instead in pursuit of personal interests. Indemnification and contribution claims cannot be sustained in the face of these pleaded admissions and should be dismissed. So they're saying that she's recognizing apparently that her own pleadings, words, and actions doom her claims. Abel seeks to improperly narrow the scope of what this court may consider in resolving Joneswork motion, but she cannot do so. First, Abel argues that the court cannot consider Lively's amended complaint on her own answer to it. I feel like I'm missing something by not knowing something. What have I missed? You guys got to let me know in the chat. What did we miss about Jennifer Abel? What is going on? I feel like there's a puzzle piece I have missed. And I feel like without that puzzle piece, I'm not going to know what's going on here. At the core of what this court must decide is whether Abel plausibly alleges that the actions described in Lively's amended complaint and her answer to it were within the scope of Abel's employment. Okay, let's just start at the top here because I don't know what's going on. Apparently recognizing their own pleadings doom her claims. She seeks to improperly narrow it. Indeed, these claims make clear that facts stated on the face of the complaint documents incorporated in the complaint by reference matters of which judicial notice must be taken, and documents integral to a claim for indemnification must be considered. And nothing is more integral to Abel's claim that Joneswork should be financially responsible for Abel's misconduct. As alleged by Lively, then Lively's amended complaint setting forth the alleged misconduct for which Abel now seeks indemnification, as well as Abel's answer responding to these claims of misconduct. At the core of what the court must decide is whether Abel plausibly alleges that the actions described in Lively's amended complaint and her answer to it were within the scope of Abel's employment. And Abel herself expressly relies on the allegations in Lively's amended complaint in defending the vagueness of her contribution claim, incorporating as support of her claims, Lively's claims against Abel and the alleged injuries about which Lively complains. I think we're not going to go through all this. Someone I'm sure will, but it looks like Joneswork is essentially trying to support even further her motion to dismiss Jennifer Abel's third-party complaint seeking indemnification. What else went up? I'm also going to check SEO because I'm really curious to see how all of this is impacting SEO. So there you go. That's another one that went up. I can't read the whole thing. Honestly, I feel like there's a puzzle piece I'm missing from not following their portion of this fully. But it looks like Joneswork is, still going after Jennifer Abel. Let's see what else. Well, this is interesting. This is all yesterday. There's literally like 8 new things there. This is declaration of Sara Nathan. Is Sara Nathan, I'm guessing, Melissa Nathan? Is there anything on them? Sister Melissa Nathan. Interesting. All right. This piqued my interest. So Sara Nathan makes the following declaration under the penalty of perjury pursuant to 28 USC 1746 and states that the following is true and correct. I'm a resident of New York and an award-winning professional journalist with over 27 years of experience. I'm employed as the editor at large for the New York Post. Oh, did not know that, which has its new newsroom at 1211 Avenue of the Americas, New York, New York. I've been employed by the Post for over 7 years, first as Page 6 features editor. Oh, and now as editor at large. And my reporting duties include coverage of Hollywood celebrities. Mine too. Me too, girl. Apparently. 2025 continues to surprise me. I never expected to be here. Oh, Leslie leaked a story to her last summer. Interesting. Interesting. Oh, well, I just feel like I need to do a separate video on her now. I submit this declaration based on my personal knowledge and in support of my motion to quash the subpoena served on me by defendants Leslie, Sloan, and Vision PR on May 5th, 2025. A true and correct copy of the subpoena is attached here to Exhibit 1. So she's been subpoenaed? The subpoena, which was served on me in New York, seeks documents and information I gathered and relied on for articles published in the Post on August 2024 relating to It Ends With Us. Oh my gosh, I think we might need to do a separate stream for her. This could be juicy. And like I said, I am not up on all the legal filings. So like, if you're like, girl, where have you been? Not reading every legal filing is exactly where I've been. I have clients and run a farm and a farm animal sanctuary, so I miss out on a lot. I usually just pick out the things that can be used in terms of context of PR and marketing. Number 6, I do not have any role in connection with the film or in the case other than through my work as a journalist covering the film and the apparent rift between the co-stars and producers of the film, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, for purposes of writing articles in the Post. Number 7, through that work, I gather and collected information from confidential sources regarding the film and the apparent rift between Lively and Baldoni. Number 8, my intention in gathering and collecting this information was to write news articles to be published in the Post and disseminated to the public. Number 9, based on information I learned in news gathering from my confidential sources, I wrote an article that was published in the Post on August 9th, 2024, entitled Truth Behind It Ends With Us, Feud Rumors. Justin Baldoni made Blake Lively feel uncomfortable. Interesting. She wrote that? Y'all, I am learning new things today. Wow. Okay. I want to try and find that now. A true and correct copy of the 90th. Oh, it's included. Exhibit 2. Based on information I learned, number 10, and news gathering from my confidential sources, I wrote an article that was published in the Post on August 13th, 2024, entitled Blake Lively Approved Final Cut of It Ends With Us, amid fuel with co-star director Justin Baldoni. A true and correct copy of the August 13th is attached as Exhibit 3. Number 11, I gathered information for and wrote the August 9th article and August 13th article while in New York City. Number 12, that is blurry. I don't know if I'm just losing my eyesight, but it feels like it's getting blurrier as we go. Maybe I'm about to have a medical crisis or something. I don't know. Now everything's blurry. 12, the August 9th article and the August 12th article rely on information that confidential sources provided to me on the condition that neither the sources nor the names of the specific information they shared would be revealed. Oh my goodness. 13, I assert my privilege under the First Amendment, federal common law, the New York State Constitution, and the New York Shield Law to reveal my confidential sources, identities, or confidential information that such sources provide. 14, I also assert my privilege under the First Amendment, federal common law, the New York State Constitution, and the New York Shield Law not to reveal unpublished information from my news gathering and reporting process, whether or not the information was confidential. And number 15, in gathering and collecting information from confidential sources, reporting and writing the August 9th article and August 13th article, I adhered to the highest ethical standards for truth, accuracy, and objectivity expected by a professional journalist, as have all in my work through the 27 years. All right, let's have a look. It's blurry because Blake and Ryan are energy vampires and they're draining us. Seriously. Well, that's true too. Ironic, Team Blake applauded New York Times protection, but now wants information from reporters. Exactly. It's always like, if it supports Blake and Ryan, then it's all good for them. But if it goes against them, then they don't like it so much. Okay, so this is the subpoena. I'm actually interested in this one. Okay, let's go through and see what it says. All right, so this is the subpoena in Blake Lively versus Wayfarer to Sara Nathan. Production, you are commanded to produce at the time, date, and place set forth below the following documents: electronically stored information or objects, and to permit inspection, copying, testing, or sampling of the material. See attached A. So that's the subpoena. Exhibit A. Definitions. Wherever they hereafter appear and following words and phrases have the following meanings. Okay, we're not reading that. So instructions, unless otherwise indicated, the relevant period for the request is from December 1st, 2022 to present. This request calls for the production of all responsive documents in your possession, custody, or control without regard to the physical location of such documents. If any document requested was in your possession or control but is no longer in your possession or control, state what deposition was made of said document, the reason for such deposition, and the date of such. For the purpose of reading, interpreting, or construing the scope of these requests and terms used shall be given their most expansive and inclusive interpretation. This includes, without limitation, the following: the terms all, any, and each shall each be construed as encompassing any and all. The connectives and, oh my God, I hate reading legal stuff. The connectives and or shall be construed. We're skipping this. Gives me a headache. If you are unable to answer or respond fully to any document requests, answer or respond to the extent possible and specify the reasons for your inability to answer or respond in full. If the recipient has no documents responsive to a particular request, the recipient shall to state. All right, so they're just stating what she has to do. Documents requested, all documents, communications concerning the Sloan parties, documents sufficient to show the location where you made the telephone, video, or voice recording of the Sloan parties. 3, documents sufficient to identify all persons who were party to the telephone, voice, or video recordings of the Sloan parties that you made. 4, all documents and communications concerning the film. 5, all documents and communications concerning any of the Wayfarer parties to the extent they are related to the allegations in the above mentioned matter. 6, all communications with any of the Wayfarer parties concerning the film, the Lively Reynolds parties, the Sloan parties, Baldoni, the allegations in the above caption matter, and any press stories or social media related to the same. Number 7, all documents and communications concerning the Wayfarer parties' solicitation of you or others to push negative. Well, Larry, that's what it's all about. All documents and communications concerning the Wayfarer party's solicitation of you or others to publish negative material about Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, whether paid or unpaid. All documents and communications with any of the Wayfarer parties reflecting any formal or informal agreement to publish negative material about the Lively parties and Reynolds parties and or the Sloan parties. So this is them still trying to figure out this freaking smear campaign. But again, Blake doesn't want any of this to be done on her side. Don't look into me. Look into everyone else. Because I'm protected because I'm a victim. All documents in consideration or communications with any of the Wayfarer parties reflecting any formal or informal agreement to publish negative material about Blake, Ryan, Sloan. All documents and communications concerning the Wayfarer party's provision to you of any information or material related to Lively Reynolds parties. All documents and communications concerning efforts to harm the Lively parties to damage their public image. All documents and communications concerning efforts to harm the Sloan parties and damage their public image. I just can't with how ironic this all is, because Blake had a conniption over the New York Times potentially having to disclose things. Like, I just can't with these people. All documents and communications concerning the Wayfarer party's efforts to seed, influence, manipulate, boost, amplify, or engage with social media algorithms, narratives, or virality, as well as the use of bots or inauthentic accounts. I just don't understand what a journalist would have to do with that. If you're still trying to find that apparently there was this like bot inorganic push to destroy Blake Lively, what does a journalist have to do with that? Like, she's just writing the article. 14, all documents and records of any kind reflecting payments or exchange of value from the Wayfarer parties to you for services of any kind related to the Lively Reynolds parties and Sloan. All documents and communications produced in connection with any subpoena in the above caption matter. The thing that caught my eye, where is it? Now I'm not going to be able to find it again because everything is blurring together at this point. I think they said paid or not paid. Well, she's the sister of someone. Like, there might be communication of just like sisters talking. Are they trying to go for that too? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Maybe not. But it just seems weird. PR subpoena. Yeah. Conniption is a great word. It is a great word. It's underutilized. Okay. Let's pull up the next one. Okay, so she has the articles included. So let's have a look. This really interests me because I love, like, it's PR, marketing, all of it. So this really, I didn't realize this was going on as well. I'm going to have to do a separate video on it. So this is Exhibit 2. Exclusive truth behind It Ends With Us feud rumors. Justin Baldoni made Blake Lively uncomfortable, sources say. So that was 8/9/2024. Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni clashed on the set of It Ends With Us, with multiple sources telling Page Six he made her feel uncomfortable. The pair star in the much anticipated big screen version of Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us, but rumors have swirled this week as the two seem to avoid each other at the movie's Manhattan premiere Monday. One industry source claimed that Baldoni, who has directed the film, created an extremely difficult atmosphere behind the scenes for the entire cast. I just don't know how that can be construed as like negative to Blake. To me, that looks negative to Justin. Am I losing my mind? Am I missing something? That seems really negative to Justin. And another industry insider said there were a few moments on set that made Lively, who was a producer on the project, feel uncomfortable about her postpartum body. Lively, 36, joined It Ends With Us soon after giving birth to her fourth child with Ryan Reynolds. As photos leaked at the start of production, fans called out Lively's frumpy costumes for the character Lily Bloom. I mean, the reality is that legit happened. That happened a long-ass time before any of this mess. And that was definitely organic. That was 100% organic. Like, everyone was pissed off about Blake Lively being cast in this and her atrocious clothes. But what I don't understand, see, I agree with you. It looks negative to Justin. I don't understand how this is part of a smear campaign. Maybe I need to keep reading, but as someone that understands PR and understands how people read, most people are reading the headline, the first 100 words. So the first 100 words to this is like, Justin's a creep. 80% of people only read the headline. I can't remember the stat off the top of my head. Is it like 75% of people share articles without having read it just for the headline? So to me, I don't know, call me crazy, but this seems really bad towards Justin. So I don't know how Leslie is looking at this as part of a smear campaign against Blake. Or either I'm losing my mind or they're losing their mind. Someone is losing their mind. Lively, 36, joined It Ends. Oh, we already read that. So the looking frumpy, prompting Lively to delve into her own wardrobe for some of the looks, borrowing clothes from BFF Gigi Hadid and husband Ryan Reynolds and wearing her own jewelry. From what I understand in hindsight, it was her clothes that people were complaining looked frumpy. That's true. Might not have been allowed to publish a pro Baldoni article. That's a good point. I would assume before Melissa Nathan was hired, that's very possible. I didn't even think of that. See, what would I do without you guys? You guys help me out and you fill in the gaps. That's very possible. It could have been, that's right, before Melissa Nathan was hired, because correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Jennifer Abel suggest Melissa Nathan? Let me know in the chat, guys. Is that correct memory of this trial and everything? I think Jennifer Abel suggested Melissa Nathan, so that is very possible. But this does not come across as pro-Justin. I don't know what they are on that's making them so delulu, but maybe I need some of it. Sources who have worked with Baldoni were quick to say the father, too, would never intentionally set out to make any of his actors feel unsupported. By the end of filming, however, there were apparently no love lost between the cast. It's not just Blake, added the industry source. None of the cast enjoyed working with Justin. They certainly didn't talk to him at the premiere. I'm just confused. Lively and Baldoni did not pose with each other at the New York City premiere Monday night. Per the plans of Sony, the studio behind It Ends With Us, Baldoni hosted a screening in Chicago Thursday night, while Lively attended a red carpet event for it in London. She also attended a Denmark premiere Friday night without her director. At the New York premiere, Baldoni, 40, arrived with his wife Emily, who has a small role as a doctor in the movie. Lively, meanwhile, posed on the red carpet with co-stars Brandon Sklenar, as well as her husband Ryan Reynolds and pal Hugh Jackman. Sources said Baldoni sat in his one theater at AMC Lincoln Square with family, friends, and execs from Sony and Baldoni's production company, while Lively watched the movie in a different theater with her own guests, including sister Robin Lively and her nieces and nephews. Lively and Baldoni have also not appeared together to promote the movie. Instead, Lively has given interviews with co-star Jenny Slate, appearing on the Today Show Monday, as well as filming for CBS This Morning with Sklenar. Things on set became so difficult that sources told us Baldoni may not return for a possible sequel, even though he owns the rights to Hoover's 2022 follow-up, It Starts With Us. This is what I'm saying, Child USA. I genuinely think what she had to gain was the second movie and getting rights to it. Leslie Stone is known for lying and creating fiascos. Yeah, I have 2 videos on her. Or no, wait, I have them on Stephanie Jones. Damn it, wrong person. But yes, also Leslie is known for it as well. Yeah, you mean the basement? Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, this doesn't come across as a pro-Justin article. I do not understand how Sloan and co. is like, we want your proof that you were working with Justin Baldoni on a smear campaign. This seems like a Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds smear campaign against Justin, unless I am completely missing something. Because, yeah, I feel like if Justin had done this, he'd also be like, and I was in the basement, by the way. I don't understand. I'm genuinely confused. I'm not playing dumb. I'm genuinely confused how this is proof there was a smear campaign. Lively signed up for the new movie after Baldoni, who found fame in the CW show Jane the Virgin, bought the rights to the book via his production company Wayfarer Studios. The company is named after Baldoni's religion. Wayfarer stands for the journey of the soul. Baldon, can't even get his name spelled right. Baldon told RogerEbert.com recently. I just feel this is not Justin paid smear campaign when they're not even getting his name spelled right. It's named after the Wayfarer in a book called The 7 Valleys and the 4 Valleys, which comes from the Baha'i faith, which is my faith. It's a journey of the soul trying to figure life out, whether you're a believer in God or whether you're spiritual, whatever you are, it's that journey of just trying to understand the world around us and yourself in the process. Baldoni bought the rights to It Ends With Us back in 2019. He told Variety how his book agent referred the novel to him in 2019 when it had already sold 1 million copies. It was sexy, and it was romantic, and it was mysterious, he said. By the end, I was sobbing real snot tears. I was very protective of this book, author Hoover told Variety, revealing that she rejected several offers before Baldoni's. But then I got an email from Justin that was really heartfelt, and I felt like he understood the book, and he understood the importance of people needing to see it on screen. And then you backstab him. Lip nibblers, Delulu. You guys are hilarious. While the movie has not yet gotten the green light for a sequel, Baldoni, who plays Ryle, was already said he's not sure he's up for the task of directing another one. You think? No shit. At Monday's New York City premiere, Baldoni told Entertainment Tonight, I think that there are better people for that one. I think Blake Lively is ready to direct. That's what I think. I'm telling you, what she had to gain from all this, and I know you guys get it, is the sequel. I just think it's so fucking obvious. Lively has said she put her heart and soul into the movie, while Baldoni told people she's a creative force, she's an executive producer on the film, and she's so brilliant. He said nothing but positive things about her. Nothing about positive things. She was the one that was causing all this shit for him. But there was a smear campaign when all he said was positive things. And I don't even understand how the logic of him doing a smear campaign works out. Because if he did a smear campaign and effectively smeared the star of his film, which arguably was the one that was bringing a lot of people to the film, how does that work for him? That makes no sense. And I believe her performance is going to help so many women feel seen and showcase this unique experience in a way that I don't believe I've seen in another film. So that's the article. Then it goes down to Lively will do battle this weekend with husband Reynolds, whose new film Deadpool and Wolverine is currently #1 at the box office. Is this the second article? No, I think it's just a continuation. I don't know. Can someone point out how that proves a smear campaign? Because maybe I'm just going crazy from reading so much, but I don't understand. I genuinely don't understand. I don't know. Let's read the second one. Maybe the second one gives us a better idea. But the first one seems to be Blake and Ryan's side smearing Justin. The first one, I would argue, is her side that is trying to destroy Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer. But let's see what this one says. This is the second article that's a part of it, that Leslie Sloan subpoena to Sara Nathan. All right. I know I keep saying I'm almost done. Let me get through this. Blake Lively approved final cut of It Ends With Us amid feud with co-star director Justin Baldoni. Blake Lively approved the final cut of It Ends With Us after clashing with director and co-star Justin Baldoni, Page 6 is told. The actress helped shape the version moviegoers are seeing on the big screen, as she felt it was important to bring a more feminine touch to the end result, multiple sources say. The new movie made $50 million on its opening weekend. Lively 36 was a producer on the project, which is based on Colleen Hoover's best-selling book. A studio insider told Page 6 there are 2 edits and the studio went with a more feminine edit. This is a class in reverse gaslightery. Okay, because I'm glad I'm not the only one. Because I am just... If anything, this to me proves that Blake and Ryan were starting a smear campaign. I am so confused. Genuinely confused. Sources close to production with knowledge of the situation, however, denied this. As another studio source said, as a producer, Blake was given the opportunity to provide edits and feedback to the film. It's completely normal for there to be multiple edits. Sony went with the cut they deemed to be the best, and that was a cut that included Blake's edits, and all parties were on board. Well, yeah, when you force and strong arm someone to agree, Justin was basically like, just like his text message when it got to the marketing piece, he's like, this isn't a hill I'm willing to die on. Like, whatever, do whatever you want, Blake. Page 6 previously revealed how Blake was made to feel uncomfortable by Baldoni, particularly about her postpartum body after giving birth to her 4th child. The pair have not promoted the movie together and did not pose together at the New York premiere. Baldoni 40 admitted that there were issues on set, telling LUK, there are all these things that happen every day on set. There's always friction that happens when you make a movie like this. Then at the end of the day, it's that friction, I believe, that creates a beautiful art. Everything in life needs friction to grow. It's very much a spiritual concept as well. Lively has spoken about contributing to almost every aspect of It Ends With Us, including putting her touches on the music, costumes, dialogue, and more. She even revealed how her husband, Ryan Reynolds, wrote one of the most important scenes of the movie, which they backtracked on after. The iconic rooftop scene. My husband actually wrote it. When there was a writer's strike. These people are wild. In a recent interview with UK's Hits Radio, Lively also admitted that they begged me to remove Lana Del Rey's song Cherry from the film, saying, I'm not supposed to be talking about this, but... Baldoni bought the rights to the book via his production company Wayfarer back in 2019. That deal reportedly includes the rights to It Starts With Us. The movie has thrived at the box office. However, when asked about returning to direct a potential sequel, he said, I think there are better people for that one. I think Blake is ready to direct. That's what I think. We have reached out to reps for Lively and Baldoni for comment. I am so confused. Oh, interesting. Blake has people on payroll at Page 6. That was her outlet during the Taylor feud as well. Interesting. Yeah, how does Blake get in the edit room for the movie and claim there was SH? Agree. She needs to plead insanity and disappear. I think at some point she should have just been like, look, I've been seeing a therapist. Now in self-reflection, I realize I had postpartum. Like, if it's true, like at this point, they'll like, just go away, Blake. And I apologize. And I am like leaving the public eye. I am healing for the next 10 years. Guys, I don't know. So those are the articles that are part of the subpoena. And the subpoena is all about trying to prove a smear campaign against Blake and Ryan and Leslie Sloan. So 8, all documents, communication with any of the Wayfarer parties reflecting any formal or informal agreement to publish negative material. What is the negative material in those 2 articles? Those 2 articles are named. Those 2 articles are brought into the subpoena. Like, does this just show that they have nothing? All documents, communication concerning the Wayfarer parties' efforts to seed, influence, manipulate, boost, amplify, or engage with social media algorithms, narrative, or virality. Think so. Don't know for sure, but I follow several celebs, and I've been paying attention to all of this since before she filed anything. Her interviews gave me the ick. And as a Swiftie, I got into it. They need to investigate the journalists. Yep. This is what. Well, I don't have an answer to any of this, guys. I'm as lost as you, but I think I need to. All right, I want to look a little bit more into this because I didn't realize that. Like, I didn't know the sisters were both in journalism. I had no idea. So that is in regards to declaration of Sara Nathan in support of the motion to quash the subpoena, which was issued to Sara Nathan by the Sloan parties to prove a smear campaign against Blake, Ryan, and Leslie. I don't know, guys. Just seeing if there's anything else in regards to that, because that is wild. Yeah, there's just some more filings by Sara just saying that she's going to file to quash the subpoena. All right, well, I think that's everything. I'm going to check really quick, see what's going on in Google today. Let's see what's going on quick. So first thing, when you look at, so for anyone that's newer to my channel, like, subscribe, welcome. I haven't streamed this long in a really long time. If you enjoy learning more about media manipulation and narrative control, I have a whole playlist on it with a lot of great content, including about Stephanie Jones. I have a video where I read through the website about, like, Stephanie Jones is a liar, which disappeared like a day after I read it. So all of that's still there. All right. So first thing, when we look at Blake, you always want to look at what's on page 1. Trending first is that Blake withdraws claims against Justin Baldoni. Variety's still trending at the top, which is favorable to Justin. Blake Lively's emotional distress claims are DOA from Deadline, which I was critical of their first article. It does look like they're a little bit more favorable to Justin than the second one. The second trending topic is Blake Lively faces legal battle with Justin Baldoni. Taylor Swift ignoring Blake Lively's groveling texts. Taylor Swift bluntly ignores Blake Lively's messages to try and reconcile. Reveal Blake Lively's groveling texts, voicemails, and emails that she's sending Taylor Swift. There's radio signs between Blake Lively and Taylor Swift. For those that are newer, but I imagine you can guess without me having to say it, this is not what you want on page 1 of Google under your name. When you are a celebrity or and I'm reading that as I'm saying it. When you're a celebrity, that's embarrassing. Yes, it is. It's very embarrassing. When we're looking at page 1 of Google, when you're looking at narrative control, you want control of what is on page 1. So, for example, an essay, I use this example a lot because it's one of the most famous ones in terms of pop culture. When what was trending on page 1 of Google for Taylor Swift was Taylor Swift jets in terms of her private jet use. What happened was Taylor Swift went to a Jets game. And so when people searched Taylor Swift jets, it pushed down the unfavorable search articles. And on page 1, it was dominated by Taylor being at a Jets game. So that's what you're going to start to see with celebrities, is if on page 1 of Google, it's unfavorable, typically you're going to see something that like pushes down what they don't want to be on page one. But like, I don't know what Blake is going to be able to drop that's going to fix this, because this is bad. This is really bad. Well, look at that, though. Look at that. It's already making headlines. Activists support Blake Lively. This is 1 day ago. Funny enough, it wasn't trending under her name this morning, so it's starting to gain traction. Activists support Blake Lively using a Me Too law in legal battle against Justin Baldoni. Ugh. Blake Lively's gained support from activists and organizations amid her legal battle against Justin. But we just said this. We just said this was going to happen. We just said it. And I've been live with you guys. I couldn't have been checking what was going on to like get ahead of it and be like, oh, I'm pretending I didn't know. I legit had no idea. According to court documents obtained by US Weekly, the equal rights advocates, California employment lawyers, and California Women's Law Center submitted a legal brief in favor of Lively on Tuesday, May 27th. You want to make a bet they're going to flood SEO with all of it now? Now they're going to talk about Child USA. I wouldn't be surprised. I wonder if they were waiting for the second one to come out, because this has been available since May 27th. So it's not like US Weekly just got it. I just obtained. You could have obtained it on May 27th. The group stated that the court should dismiss Baldoni's retaliatory lawsuit based on California Assembly Bill 933. This legislation, also known as Me Too Bill or the Protecting Survivors from Weaponizing Defamation Lawsuit Act, protects survivors of SA, harassment, and discrimination from defamation lawsuits. Oh, man. Recognizing that defamation suits are effective in silencing victims or coercing them into withdrawing their claims, the California legislature crafted AB 933 to protect survivors' reports in a manner that would avoid abusive discovery. The letter read, should this court deny Ms. Lively's motion to dismiss and permit the Baldoni plaintiff's retaliatory lawsuit against her to proceed, it would undermine this carefully crafted framework. Not only for Ms. Lively, but also for thousands of current and future victims in California who depend on AB 933's protections and remedies to defend themselves from such suits. The groups claim that Baldoni's legal team is using DARVO, deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. You all are insane. Technique to recast Mr. Baldoni as the victim to undermine Ms. Lively's credibility, while also attempting to leverage the powerful tool of abusive discovery to further persecute her. There you go. So they're going to twist this in the public to say, I had to drop 10 and 11 because it's abusive and I didn't want to relive it. And because I didn't want to relive it, they're abusing me. They're abusing victims. I wonder if they include, the only reason I'm even reading this is I want to see if they include the connections to Blake Lively's law firm. They argue that the Me Too bill would allow the law to work as intended by providing early protection and relief for survivors who speak out about SH. In addition, Lively 37 having the three organizations in her corner. Advocate Elise Dorsey defended the actress. Isn't that the person who had to settle? Isn't that the person who had, let me know in the chat, but I'm like 99% sure that Elise is the person that had to settle. But I'm pretty sure that is, because someone that came out in support of Blake in this mess, all the internet sleuths, the mommy sleuths, as the hit pieces like to call everyone, one of them had 11-year relationship with someone. Well, I think they were both married, and then accused of SH. It is. Okay, perfect. I thought so. So she came out to support. So Blake has these three organizations, and then this advocate defended the actress. But they didn't put in this article that that advocate is a fake advocate and had to settle the claim. Yes, Taylor Nation is Taylor. This is wild. An additional legal brief stated that Dorsey, who is a survivor of SH and was part of a retaliatory lawsuit. No, girl, it was proven. It was proven that you made this shit up and then you had to pay him. Miss Lively and Miss Dorsey's experiences show that SH remain deeply entrenched. Just scanning it really quick. I can't with this bullshit. Yeah, so there's no mention anywhere by US Weekly that one of those organizations has Blake Lively's lawyer on the board. No mention of that. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a lot of articles coming out about the new filings now. This is wild. I have never seen something from December in a story that is changing by the day hold SEO and hold their spot on the page 1 of Google that long. That is wild. It doesn't even make sense to me. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. Yes, an 11-year affair. An 11-year affair. Yeah. So I would say what she's going to try and do with the PR piece of it is to push down all of this with articles like this. Blake Lively gets activist support group. Child USA is supporting her. Look at all these support groups are saying that what he's doing is typical of abusers. All these support groups are defending her that like she had to drop 10 and 11 because it's unfair and abusive to go through that discovery process. I wouldn't even be surprised. She got her PR back, girls celebrating. She's beyond the Blake crap. So Taylor, they're very rarely not in control of the narrative. Tree Payne is full-time with Taylor. So this says Taylor Swift ignoring Blake Lively groveling text after being dragged into the Justin Baldoni drama. She's reportedly done with Blake Lively after being dragged into the actress's ongoing legal feud with Justin Baldoni, so much so that she's allegedly ignoring all texts, emails from her former bestie. Even though Taylor has officially cut ties, Blake hasn't with Taylor. She doesn't know when to let go. Kind of sounds like the lawsuit. Blake does not know when to quit. Just let it go, Blake. Lively's attempts to contact Swift have reportedly gone unanswered. She's been reaching out to her with texts, voicemails, and even emails begging to mend what they once had. Blake isn't giving up on trying to get her friendship with Taylor back on track. Taylor hasn't responded to any of Blake's pleas. She ignored all of her groveling excuses. Oh my gosh. The source further claimed that Swift is icing out her friend of 10 years because she feels betrayed and exploited. Taylor obviously still means so much to Blake, but Taylor's totally done with her. And as of right now, no request will mend their bond as far as she's concerned, the insider shared. The Post reached out to Swift's team for comment. Swift allegedly pressed pause on her friendship with Lively in May, being subpoenaed as a witness by Baldoni's legal team. That's funny. All right, so I've got to wrap it up. I can't believe we went for like 3 hours today. That is wild. There was just so much to cover. I am losing my voice. What I would say is what to look out for is Blake has multiple fronts now. I don't imagine she was expecting this to come out because it's just starting to trend. It was about 20 hours ago. I think Daily Mail had the first release of it. I think they're behind a paywall still, though. Yeah. Daily Mail, like anything, it's funny. Anything with Blake, Ryan, Taylor, Justin Baldoni right now is behind paywalls on Daily Mail. Not much else is, but that is behind a paywall. You know, you do what you have to do, I guess, Daily Mail. But that was about 24 hours ago. This is just starting to trend. So I'm not imagining Blake realized this was going to be coming out. She knew this was going to be a problem for PR. But I would say what you're going to likely see a lot more of, because this is just one day ago as well, Blake Lively gets activist support. I think you're going to see a lot more articles like that. I think they're going to try and push that narrative as best as they can. All right, my friends, I gotta go. I'm about to pass out. Yes, please, before you go, like the stream, subscribe if you want to hang out with us 2 hours. We're at 3. We're at 3 hours. This is wild. I think we caught up on all the legal documents, though. You are welcome, my friend. I think you guys are completely caught up now on what has been going on in the docket. I think that's everything. So we're caught up here. We're all good. We can all take a nap after this. But thank you so much for hanging out with me, guys. Honestly, it is, yeah, saging. We need a sage. Get your sage out, guys. As Emily D. Baker would say, fluff the aura after this. But it's so nice to hang out with you guys. Happy Pride Month. Yes, Leo. Happy, what's today? Wednesday to everyone. I hope you guys have a beautiful day. And again, thank you for hanging out with me. This is what I would do in my own time, going over all of this and saying these things out loud to myself. So it's really cool that I get to hang out with a really cool community and talk about things that interest all of us and bring kind of the PR spin to it. So what I want everyone here to do is to start watching Google. Start to watch how Blake twists this, because I think what we're going to see is more and more stories coming out about all of these organizations supporting her. All right, guys, with that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.